Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla, and we've got a lot of basketball to talk about. It is March.
It is March.
How are you doing this morning?
This is truly, there's sleepless in Seattle. There's also sleepless in Omaha. Total accident this time.
Not as catchy, Sleepless in Omaha.
Nope. I didn't eat. I knew I was in trouble because I didn't eat.
Uh-oh.
I had some Triscuits
That's not a lot.
and a homemade salmonage on old Jimmy John's bread with the middle tore out
Okay.
at 10:20.
That's not a great sign.
10:20. Sitting at the kitchen table, figuring out what to do with Marquette.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see the second half of Iowa State BYU.
Yep.
And I'm very mad at Marquette because they teased me.
They did.
I should have just skipped through key plays, but you never know what's going to come up on the show, so I was a little paranoid.
Yeah.
And they gave me the illusion they were going to come back.
Yeah. They kept teasing it a little bit.
They cut it to 5. I was like, oh, glad I'm.
They'd make a little run.
Glad I cut through this.
Caravan would hit him in the face again.
Well, shoot, I thought it was over at the half for a second.
Yeah. It seemed like it might be over early.
Because they pushed out after,
Yeah.
I think, 17-16 Cat. And I was like, oh, they came to play the injured star theory. They may be in big trouble. And then
they might be, yeah.
Wanted to see, because I always randomly bring up BYU on the show.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see that. And before you know it,
BYU kind of wet the bed a little bit.
Yeah. Didn't get a good look at it or any look at it. And then this morning, inexplicably, man, I got a routine. I'm a bar soap guy.
Mm-hmm.
Then I do the liquid soap after. I do the bar soap for my face. And I don't know what I was doing. Kind of got in the moment.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm swallowing Blue Irish Spring Mountain Blast.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's tough right now.
Soap doesn't taste good.
Man, and so it doesn't matter, like,
what you do after.
Yeah.
It sticks.
Yeah.
Because you're going to taste that all day.
It's a little Irish Springy.
Yeah, that's
other than that, man, I'm high on soap. Look like somebody spilled a fresh bowl of mushed up Frosted Flakes and Captain Crunch out in the parking lot.
Yeah, I'm going to give a benefit of the doubt, say maybe they weren't feeling well. Maybe got a little.
Yeah, that is a lot of vomit.
A little under the weather.
It looks like soggy cereal.
It does.
Is extremely trifling.
It's aggressive. I almost parked next to it, and I had to do a little reverse and get out of there.
Well, it's huge.
It is. It's a big spot there.
Shane was out there doing his thing. He's kind of far down over by the other restaurants. He's like, yeah, I had to get away from that. I was downwind. I was like, ugh. And that's the one smell.
Oh,
Like you just,
yeah.
It's hard to rally from.
It really is. Just like the soap taste is hard to rally from.
Man, I'm kind of mad about
that. That ain't wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. What up, Shannon?
Hey,
by the way, how about calling my shot on him?
On Shannon?
What I tell you I was concerned about with Shannon Sharp after the Cat Williams deal?
Doing a little too much too soon.
He's doing too much.
Yeah.
Doing too much. And he has had a bad 3 weeks.
It's not been good.
Yeah. You could see it coming, though.
Yeah, it seemed like it was getting away from him a little bit.
Maybe smelling himself.
Feeling himself a little bit too much?
Yeah.
You were down in Lincoln last night, right?
I was. Long day down in the old town.
How did you just make it down for West Side, or you stay the whole?
So I left Maya wanted to go watch her beloved Mustangs.
Go stay.
And Breeze did too.
Yeah.
So left a little earlier than I wanted. Won't be doing that again.
Yeah.
Yep, because I'm not interested in watching Bellevue West and Central. And I have NFHS network.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was rocking yesterday.
I was very bothered by Breeze picking him up from school. The minute he opened the car door, they just ran the little pop where Jaden Jackson came off the curl from the top of the key and hit his second three. And I think it put Bellevue West up one, maybe 36-35, something like that. Because he hit 2 3, so 37-35. And I was like, oh, no, he didn't. Mike opened the car door. He's like, you good? Get in the car. You messed up my flow. So then I had him hold the phone, and we played it through my Bluetooth.
Yeah, I so
That was a
that
it was a crazy day.
that was one of those. I mean, Prep Bellevue West was one of those like styles makes fights type of games.
And if you kind of watch that slow bleed and Prep's back, Marquise got in foul trouble and it got late for his guards to handle the ball. They couldn't really get into an offense. It was 35-31 with 2:37 to play.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't score again.
Well, it took until just under 2 minutes for anyone to make a field goal in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That's
I
rough out there.
You could tell, and I thought about what Coach Klein said yesterday about guarding. Like defensively, they really got into Prep.
Yeah.
And made it really, really tough. And you could see anytime there was going to be a post entry to Clausen, the double was coming.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then Jaden Jackson, 2 big shots.
I mean, there's a reason you want a dude, right? I mean, whether it's high school, college, pro, like there's a reason.
Saw that kind of a lot yesterday, although it was a good day for the unsungs.
Yeah, for the below the.
Yeah, it was a good day. I felt like Moni did a lot of dirty work for Millard North. I think Major Mosser hit a big three from the corner early to kind of stem the potential blowout tide. Because Gretna jumped on him early.
They did.
He calmly hit one from 3.
Well, I texted you because they made everything in the first quarter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything.
And I believe that now
it was like 23-10, 23-8,
23-9,
something like that.
I think their contingency was the biggest, although Lincoln's was. So it was either Lincoln Southeast or Gretna had the biggest crowd contingency, but that whole west side of PBA was all green.
Can I was in my feels a little bit yesterday.
How about Dale giving North the V down? Symbol?
Zero
love lost.
Yeah. So I'm watching that Miller North Gretna game yesterday, and I sort of was caught off guard by myself.
I said.
Yeah, and I go because I texted you this after the game. I think I said I'm sadder than I thought I would be that Gretna lost.
Yeah, you kind of felt like you got caught up in the emotion. It hit you. Yeah.
Because like to the point where I don't want to say like on the verge of tears, but like I was a little emotional about the whole thing. And I'm a Miller North guy. Everybody knows that. That's not. So I was obviously rooting for Miller North, and I don't have a personal connection to Coach Feakin really. I met him professionally a few times. We were looking at some of his kids when I was coaching, stuff like that. So I don't have that either, but it kind of I felt for the kids in that moment, especially when the buzzer went off and they all just kind of bent over at the waist and you could just like see everything hit them.
Yeah.
And
that's a tight knit group.
Brother. And maybe I don't know, maybe I'm making too much of it, but like it reminded me of this situation that a dear friend of mine. This is almost 10 years ago now. His wife passed just totally unexpectedly. Hadn't been sick. She just passed. She's in her 40s. Just passed in the middle of the night. And this was in 2015. It was the year that the Royals won the World Series. And my buddy is a diehard Royals fan. Has been his entire life. And she passed at the beginning of September. About the only time I saw him feel any sort of happiness for maybe a year, but months certainly, was during that October run. And it kind of, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because he lives in Gretna. Like, I don't know. Maybe that was all just kind of coming together for me. But
that's interesting.
I sat, and his girls go to Gretna. So I don't know if that's why it hit me this way, or if it was just that I was so aware of the fact that in time, like I was putting myself in the shoes of not just the players, but of the parents and the community, and thinking this is maybe the only thing they've been able to smile about since Coach Feakin died.
Yeah, and and the reason, well, there's lots of reasons. I have a ton of respect for them as a community, but I think the main thing is it's almost impossible to separate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was hoops. He
Yeah.
was for kids, right? And so every time that you're on the court, you're reminded. It's not like it's a getaway.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
But it's almost.
it would be easy to go to the bench and say, well, this used to be Coach Hurd's role, but
Yeah.
now in its totality, he has this.
Yeah.
And I looked over and it was funny because I was talking to one of the other media members because he asked me, he's like, hey, when did Dirk start coaching? And I was like, I saw him, when they came to West Side.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he hasn't been coaching very long, so you don't know. Like, do you go up to a guy? Is he in a zone? Do you
Yeah.
just let him? Because other coaches I would know, right?
For sure.
But I
Yeah.
made it quick. I was like, hey, whatever. And I just the whole, like you just feel for friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the meantime, you're watching like a game unfold. They get off to this crazy start, and well, how good is Rollins when he wants to be?
Oh man.
I'm not sure what was going on the first 3 quarters, but he kind of did the same thing to West Side. Yeah, took over late, and he
I
and
mean,
he
he's a big kid. Like maybe people just get tired. I don't.
and you know what I like. He's an interesting study because for his frame,
Yeah.
he's relatively bouncy.
Yeah.
If he spent like an off season just chiseling up,
Yeah. He'd be kind of freaky.
because he'll be recruited as a below the rim kind of guy because he doesn't really handle it like a guard.
No.
He shoots it well, and he's shooting it much better
Yeah.
than he has.
There's probably some untapped skill set there.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Good footwork.
Gonna
throw.
have to. Oh yeah, crafty.
Yeah. Pretty good touch and really good like second bounce. Like when he would miss one.
When's the last time you seen a Class A team just pound the ball inside?
Almost never.
So we were talking about it on the way home, because that's obviously who Westside has, and we're talking about what we think the game plan is going to be. And I said, well, it's going to be really difficult to double.
Yeah,
because they are surrounded by
There's too many shooters out there. Yeah,
and so you have to hunker down against him and do your work early because he'll get on the glass too. But about that was it's been a long time since I just saw a team feed the post.
Yeah, there was like genuine just post entries.
Feed the post, and I'm like, hey, if you guys are going to stay attached to the wings and to ball handlers, you have to make those post passes entry or tough. You can't give ground on a post entry and single cover a guy in the post because it's too easy.
Yeah, if you don't feel like you can guard him straight up 1-on-1, and you don't feel like you can double, which I agree you can't double, then the two things.
Did you see Monster hit the one from Neil hit the one from the logo?
Yeah.
That's like, oh God.
All right, I guess that's just what we're doing.
And it's funny too because the people around there were so many people that I don't think really watch. They're there, and I heard the wife. She's a little older. She's back over my left shoulder, and she goes, "Boy, that young man will shoot it from anywhere." And I'm in my head. I'm because I mean, whatever, just long line of watching them play.
Yes,
with us,
yeah,
and against us, and in my head, I'm like, yep. As any coach that would say, I could just hear Alvin say, "Yeah, touch him." you have to you have to know where he is at all times.
That's one of those as soon as he crosses half court type.
Yeah,
of guys.
And you know what? He has the stones to shoot it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a little when he shot that one, I was like, man, there's a little bit of Shireman there.
Saw some good individual, like Dale had the big run for Central single-handedly, and I'm telling you, I'm a big minor strong guy.
Yeah, you brought him up yesterday.
Well, because on a day where I saw some selfish basketball,
yeah,
right, like I won't get into that, but guys try to get theirs, right, especially on that stage, and he's kind of refreshing because he's almost too unselfish. And his bag is pretty full.
It is.
It is pretty full. I just briefly mentioned, like, Caleb talks about tough guards.
Yeah.
And he said Frager because of his length
and tough shot making.
And he makes tough shots.
Yeah.
He takes tough shots. He said, and minor because he has so many counters.
Mm-hmm.
He can go left, he can go right. He's got the little hezzy. He'll go behind his back. He's a tempo guy,
Mm-hmm.
so he's not a blow by you.
No, he kind of does like the
he
herky-jerky
understands
a little
changing
bit.
gears.
Yeah, well, like a Trey Alexander a little
Or,
bit. Like he's not blowing by
not
you,
quite Shea Gilgeous, but like that.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like
little
stop,
herky-jerky.
stop, start, and he's tough.
Yeah.
And that was a 10-point game, but it wasn't really a 10-point game. So all the games were like they were close,
pretty tight. At least at certain points they were pretty tight.
And all the teams that won, had to come back at some point, from a 6 or more point deficit.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange.
You mentioned the guys kind of trying to get theirs on that stage, and I wonder. I don't necessarily. I know this is surprising to some people. I don't always like attributing negative motivations to things I don't like when people do them. Sometimes I will, but that's usually not my first instinct because I don't want people to assume that about me. And so, I'm kind of watching guys maybe play out of character or out of what you would like them to do.
It drives me up the wall.
And I wonder if the moment maybe gets to him a little bit.
Well, just do what's easy. It's easier to pass the ball ahead, stop dribbling into doubles, keep your head up. I mean, just the little things.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're on your 5th Euro, give the ball up. I mean, pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
You would think so.
And I felt like there were some stretches in all these games where it got there were these times where the balls got a little sticky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, the teams that can keep their composure the best are going to hang in there. And how good was Coach Klein down the stretch?
Yeah.
The little set piece he called for Jaden at the top of the key. I'm sure that's something they run a ton.
Oh,
they got in the bag, but just ballsy.
Well, and having the composure.
That's the thing.
The composure to be down in that situation. You haven't made a field goal in the entire
panic.
Fourth quarter.
When he made the 3 from the wing,
yeah,
and it cut it to 2, and he kind of gave the clap. I was like, oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, this one's coming.
Because he's not real emotional.
Yeah.
He's a quiet, good-natured. He's a quiet, good-natured dude, and Eldon, his pressure defensively, they just kept pushing Prep away from the basket. And I'm like, oh boy.
Well, it's kind of, we talked about it a little bit yesterday.
And you can't foul Turner either because he's a great free throw shooter.
Man, there was some bad free throw shooting yesterday, though.
Yeah. And hey, shout out CJ Mitchell, man.
Those are huge ones for
made him too late. So I thought there was a couple critical moments in that game.
Yeah.
Got 49-47, and Caleb made it 51-47.
Yeah, you got that tough look inside.
And then took the charge. And CJ taking the third quarter over. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I think he was like 5 of 8 from the floor. But it was very efficient in spurts. And he didn't get off to a great start. He was kind of fumbled with the ball a little bit, a little loosey-goosey. A lot of emotions, I was telling you, going into that one. And he settled it down in the third quarter. Carson Healy kept Westside in it. I thought, listen, there was a stretch where, and I know it got to be 5-4. I thought they were going to get their doors blown off in the first 3 minutes of that game.
Well, you probably had a little PTSD from the last time too.
But I could see it coming.
Yeah, right.
Missing easy shots.
Yeah.
Didn't
really seem like Westside got into a flow.
No.
It took
them. They missed a lot of easy shots.
Yeah.
They missed too many shots around the paint. And selfish is too strong of a word, but the ball gets way too sticky.
A little sticky.
Way too sticky. But they like each other so much.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really, and they play with some toughness
for sure.
Because Deaton, I got to show you his scouting report. The big kid from Southeast, like the stats, and then watch him play.
Yeah,
that's the second time he's did that to Westside,
where he just went off on.
Yeah, he's a 30% 3-point shooter.
That's wild.
He ruins. That's 2 in a row
because he hit to make it 49-47. He hit 3 in a row.
Yeah. Well, Nagoya hit one too.
Oh, okay.
That tough one from the wing
Yeah.
front of the media table.
Yep.
To cut it to 49-47, and their place went crazy.
Yes.
And I think Coach Simon, he took a full.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what he said. They ran the little 2-man game in and out of there. They made it 51-47, but like they showed some resolve. Like I hadn't seen that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there was a lot of that. North jumped on Central early.
Yeah, they did.
And
was it 9-2 coming out, and
yeah,
then Central goes on like a 20-2 run.
Yeah, so I was trying to get some sandwiches ready. So my back was to the TV because I wanted to get Micah fed before we left. And I looked, and I remember it being like 14-6, maybe 14-4, something like that. And I go back to kind of paying attention. It was 22-20 Central. And I was like,
crazy.
I can't wait to go back and
it happened pretty fast.
Yeah, so you can pull it back. So I mirrored it through my laptop as opposed to watching the app on TV, and I pulled it back to see what happened. And I was like, just I'm like, oh, it's gonna be one of those. Right then and there in the kitchen, I told Breeze, I said, it's gonna be one of those days. Bubby West had the battle back. Central didn't cave. Then North came out on the second half and kind of punched. I was like, huh. Miller North had to come back and. Yep. After Gretna jumped on him, it's a hard place to play. I didn't love the attendance though. I thought it was a little light.
You thought so?
I did. Now it was star-studded.
I couldn't tell on TV what the actual.
Yeah, I thought it was a little light.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a chance. I hadn't seen Lee Barfneck in forever.
Yeah.
And I just talked about him a day before, so I talked to him for a while. Saw Chase Lofton, Dylan Raiola. Josiah Alec.
Okay.
I mean, there are a lot of dudes. I hang out with my man Tristan Alvano.
I think we might see a
Husker
large
baseball representing.
I think we might see a large Nebraska football contingent today with Ainsworth down there.
I'm sure.
That's the rumor, at least, is that there's going to be a lot of Carter Nelson support from the football team down in Lincoln.
Yeah, they were well represented last night.
Coming up next, we'll set up the show and get to more here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB.
Hi.
I'm Ravi Lulla. Hi.
What's up?
We're going to talk to our friend Jacob Padilla from Hurrdat Sports here at 8 a.m. 8:45, we're going to talk to Brian Edwards, Vegas B. Edwards, see if we can get a little...
He used the cream cheese to butter the bagel. Is that pretty good, Shane?
It was okay. It was all right.
That's pretty solid. I mean,
I still got the Irish Spring going on, man. Shout out to having a soapy tongue.
The cream cheese to butter the bagel.
It was all right.
I feel like Kevin from A Christmas Story, but I was already blind before that.
It
was the soap.
We got Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7 at 9.
Big series this weekend.
Lots of Husker baseball to catch up on, and then we will talk to Omaha Supernovas head coach Laura Kuhn at 9:30.
I said, maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me.
That's Champagne Supernovas, not
Omaha.
Actually, that's Wonderwall, which is by Oasis.
They say Supernova in the song.
No, that's a different song by Oasis.
Dang, man, cut a boy some slack.
Yeah, Wonderwall, which is what you were singing, and then you got Champagne Supernova, which is what our hopefully Omaha Supernovas will be singing at the end of the season when they pop some champagne with a championship.
A lot of cultural differences going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't look at you.
I'm not a. It's Oasis, right?
Yeah,
I'm not a.
I wouldn't look at you and be like, yeah, big Oasis guy.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not like a big Lumineers guy either.
Hey, doesn't our other guy that we used to work with in our former life, doesn't he like them? I think one of our
apostrophe.
No. Heck no. Oh. No, although it wouldn't be ranty. I mean, he does have some weird taste.
He's a little eclectic.
No.
The other guy?
Yeah.
He looks more like Lumineers.
Yeah, he's a Lumineers guy.
Yeah, that checks out.
I thought I'd see him yesterday. It was, you know what was cool to see?
What's that?
So I told you I sat with a couple baseball guys and Tristan Alvano for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I saw I told you. So Dylan was with Chase and Danny, which I thought was pretty cool, right? Like 2 quarterbacks, same age, hanging out with one another. Luke Lindenmeyer was over there, who I'm a big.
Yeah, you're a big Lindenmeyer.
And I didn't go, I'm not that. I was just, but I champion Luke, right? I'm a big Luke guy. And anyway, I like to see guys hanging out outside
when they don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Because at some point that's got to be a big deal. Like Micah ran over and sat with like all our football guys got there, both Rezacs and Bo and RJ and JQ and those guys, and I mean they're just like magnets, right? But they like spending time with each other, and at some point that stuff matters. Like I think we kind of undersell it, but you can tell the teams. Watch Bellevue West, watch North. You think North isn't connected? Like that team's pretty connected.
I think it's easier for me to see, at least when I'm watching basketball, because it's such a kind of communal, like, sharing of the ball sport.
Yeah.
And it's less, you get more choices, right? You can choose in basketball to be selfish or unselfish a lot more often, right? Where in football, things are a little bit more scripted, a little bit more set, at least.
Selfish.
That's the plan.
Selfish.
Right?
Yeah, just watching the guys love, like Carson Healy. Just loving him. I won't, single-handedly is a little strong. He kept Westside in the first half of that first quarter.
For sure.
50-50 balls.
Yeah.
Tristan Alvano came over and he goes, boy, what's going on with Carson? I said, hey, man, at this stage in the year, you got to have 1 or 2 of those.
That's why I like Jason Green for Creighton right now.
Well, he's something, isn't he?
Because he does a lot of those things that no one else does. And I'm not trying to hate on anybody else, right? Everybody else has.
Remember, you don't have to say that.
Well, I mean, okay. Everybody else has their roles.
Ravi, you look nice today.
Thanks.
What, I didn't look nice yesterday?
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Don't do that.
He does stuff that no one else does. Everybody else has their roles, and they were missing that. They were missing the thing that
a dirty guy
Arthur Kaluma would do sometimes last year. Not always, not super consistently, but he was the closest thing they had to that last year.
Yeah.
Sort of the glue guy, the dirty guy, the cleanup guy. Jason Green provides Willie D.
He used to have a song called The Cleanup Man.
I'm not familiar.
They're not really friends, but everybody knows that guy that picks up everybody else's scraps.
Oh,
but it's not really
everybody.
Trash.
Yeah.
I saw a couple Willie D's last night.
Jason Green is one of those guys. You're talking about Carson Healy being that for Westside yesterday. Those guys are the difference between nice teams and teams that win championships.
Did you watch Ackerman or Kayvon Newsom at all yesterday for Central?
Not specifically.
They had a little bit of that in them.
Yeah.
There was a stretch where it was about getting to the ground. Who could get there first?
Yep.
And like that, I'm telling you, it seems far-fetched. Like in March, you kind of are who you are, but that stuff mattered. First to the floor. Yeah. Like it's just weird. I saw. You know who was desperate last night? Who'd Villanova play?
Seton Hall.
They looked desperate.
They did. I have a hard time with Villanova and Seton Hall, to be honest with you.
Okay, I'll let you go first because you're going to get me gassed up.
Well,
you realize there's people that already have resigned themselves to losing to Villanova this weekend. And I'm like,
no, that's stupid.
Villanova's not that good.
No, they're not. I get that Villanova beat them in Omaha. I get
I don't know if it's an aura,
I think it's honestly more than anything, because I think we're far enough removed from the Jay Wright of it all that I don't think people are having PTSD from those Nova teams. What I think it is, I think it's Eric Dixon. I think they see Eric Dixon go off against Creighton every game.
It drives me crazy.
And I think they're like, oh, we don't have an answer for Eric Dixon. Oh, there's nobody to guard Eric Dixon, whatever. But you're right. Villanova's not very good. I don't think Kyle Neptune's very good. I am shocked
at how he struggled.
I didn't really have any.
Be honest.
I didn't have any expectation for him.
Wright was vouching for him.
He was,
and I think Coach Mack liked Coach Neptune.
And that's fair.
Not to say that
know enough about him independently.
We can't be wrong, but
I
think he came in with some good pedigree.
He came in with highly endorsed for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know enough about him independently to say, yeah, this is a guy that I think knows what he's doing. I think it's really hard with assistants in basketball if you're not intimately familiar with how the team operates. Like I could say that I was really confident when Coach Huss went to High Point that
shout out Coach of the Year.
Coach of the Year, had a great first year.
He's such a good dude.
Like I was pretty confident because I had
that's somebody I could see
taking over Creighton.
Yeah.
I think that's the ideal.
Maybe before D-Rock. And by the way, how good is his son?
Really good. Tucker, real good.
So he's getting, and it's fun because I've watched him since he was a pup. Like you're talking 6th grade.
Yeah.
Like his draft grades and breakdowns that are starting to happen. I'm like, it doesn't seem like we're that far removed.
Yeah. The years creep up on you a little bit.
Yeah. I watched him give Bradley buckets like about 8 straight before they decided they wanted to call timeout the other day. I was like, what is going on? You're just going to let him go ham?
But no, so like a guy like D-Rock, when he went to Drake, I was pretty confident because I knew about how he operated and what his place was in Creighton staff, that I was like, yeah, I'm pretty confident he's going to be good. Pretty confident that Steve Lutz was going to be good when he went to
another good guy.
Corpus Christi. Now he's at Western Kentucky. I was pretty confident that Al Huss was going to be good because I'm pretty familiar with how Creighton operates and the assignments that they get from Coach Mack and stuff like that. With Kyle Neptune, I'm not that level of familiar with what his roles were on previous staffs. So I can't go out there and say like, yeah, he's going to be a good coach. I know people liked him. That's great. That's a good start. But as soon as they started playing last year, and I know they've dealt with injuries and whatever, and I just was watching them. I'm like, this doesn't strike me as a terribly well-coached team.
I want to eat this ice so bad to get the soap taste out of my mouth.
Well, we got like 50 seconds.
I don't want it clicking in my.
We got like
my
45 seconds, and you can go.
Speaking of like, so did Woodson temporarily stave off the? I know the natives are restless in Bloomington, but they go to Minnesota and put it on Minnesota.
That's the difference. Like, is that?
And I like Ben Johnson.
Is that the difference between like keeping and losing Mike Woodson?
I don't know.
Because if it is, you're making decisions on bad reasons.
I don't know, but shout out East Lansing too. It's a shout out morning. Carson Healy, CJ Mitchell, East Lansing, Alan Huss,
like Steve Lutz.
Did I? Yeah.
D-Rock, forgot D-Rock.
Yeah.
Tucker.
Dude, how about? I mean, Michigan. Is that Michigan State?
I have no idea. And neither do they. And that's the problem.
Nobody up here does.
Coming up next, we'll wrap up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well.
What?
Well, just talking here. We talked a lot of high school hoops in the first part of the hour. We'll talk a little bit more with Jacob Padilla here coming up at 8 o'clock. He was down in Lincoln all day, I believe.
The
whole day.
Oh yeah.
Him and the entire Hurrdat Sports. Well, not the entire Hurrdat Sports crew, but
I'm so glad that Avery and Jacob can carry Sauter. Like, and Sauter totally uses Avery as a buffer.
How so?
Because like she's got a little more courage.
Mm-hmm.
So like when he wants like these little impromptu interviews or grab an assistant.
Yeah. Just sends her out there.
Yep.
Little foot soldier.
Yep. 100%. And Jacob bangs out the details and Sauter gets all the glory. Nah, I'm not gonna glow all.
He just walks around. He just walks around in his fur coats and what?
Nah, Who are you, Josiah Alec?
Yeah. No, he took the coat from
Josiah. So he was there last night, and he's a lot more recognizable because of the mane.
Josiah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but
Mike too.
His personality is fantastic.
Yeah.
The kids just flock to him.
Yeah.
He took a picture. It looked like a class photo for 3rd grade. Big old teacher in the middle and like 30 little rugrats.
Yeah.
and he had them all hemmed in. I mean, it's good to have him back. He's given Nebraska a lot of toughness.
Oh yeah, it's kind of
a lot more quiet, like. Because I don't know if people recognize. I mean, people obviously recognize Dylan, and they recognize Danny, and maybe not so much Luke, and certainly not Chase Lofton, who's just a high school guy.
Yeah.
But I say but Alec, he garnered the bulk. Dylan, nobody really even bothered him. He said minded his own business.
Well, I think there's because of how unique Josiah looks. Right, there's super recognizable.
He had the wire glasses on. I mean, looks straight like a 70s dude.
Also, when you're like 6'8",
yeah,
you just stand out a lot more.
He has an electric smile.
I mean, I know that Dylan's 6'3" or whatever, but there's a lot of normal people that are 6'3".
Yeah,
not a ton of normal dudes that are 6'8" with the sideshow bob hair. Like that's not, that's a pretty recognizable individual right there. It is kind of funny though when you have guys that have these really unique looks, almost always their personality matches.
Yeah, and the cool thing about him is he brings it.
Yeah.
So for a guy that may rock the fur or whatever it was, I
think it was a faux fur. He said he got it on Amazon for like $70.
Speaking of which, I got to get with Woodard. He's
real Woodard or faux Woodard?
Well, both, but faux. He's amazing. I could easily see Coach Klein getting Coach of the Year, and I get it. Best team on paper,
sure,
but
they've run through it though.
It's not easy.
No, and we talked to. I think when we talked to Coach Etzelmiller about this, you could have said the same thing a little bit to Bellevue West.
I almost gave Coach Etz a double handshake last night.
What
is that weird? Like so like if I was going to take your hand, I was like, hey man, like man, good.
Isn't that the TO where he like grabs up the forearm? Wasn't that his move?
Etz is a stud.
Yeah. No,
he like if something happened and I'm not a panic by nature guy, but if like I was panicking, Etz would be like could totally talk me off the ledge.
He seems incredibly composed.
He's unbelievable.
And that's almost the exact, I know it's different levels here, but the exact opposite feel of when I watch Villanova, and I'm like, that's not a well-coached team. I watch
you guys keep throwing Villanova down my I'm glad you're not on that hype train because I was about to be.
I think Kyle Neptune's bad. I don't think he's.
I don't know. I'm not saying that.
I think he's done a bad job.
What I'm
so
saying
far.
is the same thing I said to you 2 weeks ago. They stand around the arc and shoot too many threes. They don't get enough easy shots. And at some point, I get it, make or miss league or whatever.
And I don't even think the threes that they get are generated well.
Oh.
Because there's a difference, because people are probably like, oh, well, how's that different from Creighton? Creighton generates their threes in a more sustainable way.
Are you seed watching?
For Creighton?
I wanted to get into this, but we're not going to have time. Are you seed
for the
watching?
Big East tournament?
Big East, Big Ten?
A little. The 2 and 3 to me don't make that much of a difference in the Big East because you basically end up.
I think they make a big difference in the Big Ten.
Yes.
I do.
And Nebraska could crawl its way to the 3.
How about that?
Which is incredible.
Oh, they got to take care of business.
They do, right? And I think they still need a little help. I think that somebody else needs to lose still.
Well, they're tied with Northwestern.
So I think Northwestern, either they win and Northwestern loses, or Northwestern loses and they win.
Have you allowed yourself to go to the 11 a.m. daylight savings Ann Arbor Senior Day? Have you talked yourself into being nervous?
Yes, but almost exclusively because Michigan's a different team at home than they are on the road.
That's 10 a.m. for your body clock.
Yeah, that's not great.
So how do you think Senior Day goes in Ann Arbor?
Awkward.
Are they like, let's get this over with, or
yeah,
man, let's rally one good time?
Because they're like 8-20 or whatever. Does anyone like Juwan Howard?
By the way, did you realize that it's spring forward
this week?
Savings? Yeah,
I did not know.
Yeah, best wishes with that.
Every once in a while, my phone's just going to tell me like, hey, this isn't the time anymore.
The only thing I have to change is my microwave and oven. It's the only 2 clocks that are in our
that
house.
aren't out of automatic. Yeah. Let's get Michigan Lance here on the phone line. Let's talk a little high school basketball. Lance, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How you doing this morning?
Why are you so soft
little
spoken,
subdued
buddy?
this morning.
You sound awful professional.
Well, yeah, I had to walk out the door here.
Can we get the whole "Hey, love you"? Okay, have a good day. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Talking to my kids.
Yeah. Hey, Shane, do we have that queued up where Lance is actually being a nice guy for once in his life?
See, have a good day. Love you. You guys are crazy.
Yes,
you
yes, we
really
are. Yes, we are.
That as the drop.
Yes.
Hey, have a good day.
You guys are out of control.
Hey, have
man.
Hey, have a good day. Love you. Bye.
See, have a good day. Love you. Hey, man. You know what? Hey, listen, man. Let me tell you something. I am not ashamed of that.
No,
Every day of the
man.
week, the ends in Y, like my man DB. That's all good, man.
So
That's cool.
was that the two princesses, or was that a little LGZ off the Heezy?
That was the one. No, that was the one. That was Cadence. You know, she goes to a different school than my other two.
Is she still ruling the roost, or how's that going?
Well, you know, Autumn is the one, the youngest. She's the boss lady at the house. But Cadence is like the program manager. She makes sure that everything's in line and I can't believe I'm saying my kids' names on this thing. But
we're not googling. We're not googling.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, man. So things are going good with them. She's just about to finish up at a performing arts school. Cadence is. She's won some awards for her art since she's been down here. You know, the last year and this year as well. So earned a scholarship this year for art. And so she can continue to be in these things. She'll continue to get scholarships and things of that nature. So
what's up?
It's all good, man.
What do we owe the pleasure, buddy?
Hey, man, I have to, because we've been arguing so much. I have to talk about high school basketball, and I have to give praise to one of Creighton Blue Jays' finest, Donnie Johnson.
Okay.
Listen.
How are you going to tie this in? Let's go. I'm here for this.
He's the head coach at Thomas Jefferson Council Bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
And their record last year, they lost every year since he's been there the last 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And last year they went 3-18. This year they went 18-4.
Mm-hmm.
What people don't understand is it's harder to turn a loser into a winner than it is a winner into a champion. And so, as we always want to give praise to people who won state titles or national championships, Don Staley said something one time. Listen, everybody's national championship isn't the same. And people can earn a championship in different ways. So, like for me, I wasn't a star player coming out of high school. And so I was a good role player, right? And I was able to, Coach John McMenamin at Central was able to get me a scholarship to go to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first championship. That was a big deal from the circumstances that I came from and not being the so-called big-time player to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for Donnie Johnson and those kids at TJ, hey, man, that's a big deal. I don't diminish people and coaches who turn winners and losers into winners, a la Bill Snyder, even though they didn't win a championship. And DB's been on both sides, so he definitely can speak to
100%
the mentality of somebody who doesn't win, who's never won, and the mentality of winners that didn't win a championship, but then eventually you did, you know what I mean, as a player and as you've seen as a coach. So, hey, man, big praise and shout out to those kids and community at Council Bluffs, Thomas Jefferson, and big on Donnie Johnson, who got better as he's been along as a coach. Man, there was a lot of daggers thrown at him early on in his career.
Yeah. Do you remember Art's first call in my former life?
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, he used to kill my man. Hey, and you know I was on him about that. Like, hold on a second. Like, don't just call him out. There's a lot of other worse coaches than him.
Yeah.
But, hey, praise to him. Show him some love. He deserves it. He's come a long way. And so does that community in Council Bluffs, Thomas Jefferson. Congrats to those guys on a great season.
Michigan Lance, you know what? You and I actually agree about something. Not everybody's championship is the same. I agree 100%.
I may steal that.
That's the good stuff. We appreciate the call, Lance.
Do I have to credit Don Staley?
Nope, never. I mean, yeah, you can if you want. She just went 2 straight undefeated regular seasons. You can credit her. She earned it. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And we are joined now by our friend Jacob Padilla of Hurrdat Sports, who was camped out in Lincoln all day yesterday for state basketball. Jacob, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, young Jacob, I know that Phoenix didn't play last night, but I didn't hear your voice through my Bluetooth until 10:20. How far can we stretch you this segment? Could we get into college basketball, or do you want to stay grounded with high school?
I mean, if you want to talk in general, we can hit on something.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I won't ask you about specifics in games. I mean, I only get to talk to a few experts every week, so I may have to take advantage of your range. I just was seeing kind of where you're at mentally, because you have got to be pooped.
Well, if I don't have an answer for you, I'll let you know.
Are you? Well, the first one's easy. Are you tired?
Yeah. Tyler and I got a kind of place down here to stay, and I'm on a pull-out mattress, and it wasn't terribly comfortable. So I don't know if I actually saved any sleep by not having to do the back and forth commute or not.
So when I talked to you guys last night, were you leaving PBA or still at PBA?
We had just parked. We were walking over to that place.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's not terrible, but you had a few write-ups to do, like a little work to do after that?
Yeah, I just had one left, so it wasn't too bad, but I don't sleep well, so
Who's
doesn't really matter.
Who's driving?
So Sauter, he knew where we were going. I did not, so I just hopped in his car, so we didn't take one.
Yeah, I love you, Jake. You're ridiculously honest. It's like refreshing. He said, if I don't have an answer, I'll let you know.
Jacob, how are you feeling about, before we dive into the high school here, how are you feeling about Creighton's matchup with Villanova to wrap up the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've got a lot on the line now. Having with the way that last game went, they can't afford losses. So they're going to go into that one fire. But Creighton's got that 2 seed. They've got a lot to play for as well. So I don't know. It's tough. Like that last game is so tough to evaluate because they had that game won for 30 minutes, and then just for whatever reason, that last 10 minutes they just could not make a basket to save their lives. 4 points in 10 minutes for Creighton basketball is wild. And so that game never should have gotten to overtime. As well as Dixon was playing, they shut everybody else down essentially, and they were in control of that game, and then just could not score again. So I don't know, the way you look at that, Dixon's a terrible matchup for the way they defend. He's lit them up the last couple of times they played, but at the same time, Creighton was the better team for most of that game and just let it slip at the end. So if they can replicate the first 30 minutes and figure out what happened in the last 10, I think they'll be all right. I think they're the better team, but the Dixon factor does kind of give you pause in terms of what they're going to be able to do against Creighton. And I think they're probably playing they were playing well down the stretch, and then that last game happened. So I didn't see exactly how they lost to Seton Hall, but I guess we'll see kind of how they're playing on Saturday.
Jacob, do you think, we saw Creighton do some different things by force against Marquette because Iguodala was out. Do you think we might see them try and roll out some different things on Dixon, considering it wasn't just last game, it's been the last couple of years he's been a really big problem for Creighton?
Yeah, I think they tried a little bit in that last game. I think the difference here, I don't know that we'll see necessarily anything from that Marquette game that they pull out in this one, because that was kind of more of a scramble situation where I think whatever they do in this one will be better planned and better practice, especially with this time off to prepare for it. So I think they'll have kind of some counters in mind to try, and we'll see kind of how well they work. And if they do, I think they'll stick with them. If not, they'll try something else or go back and just hope that they can do what they do best better. So, and a part of that too, I think, will depend on what everybody else is doing. If Dixon has 30, but everybody else has 30 combined, then you'll live with that. But if other guys are getting loose in addition to Dixon having a big game, then you're obviously going to have to adjust. So I think they'll come into this one much better prepared than what we saw in the Marquette game, just because they know what they're going to see, whereas Marquette was just a complete wild card.
Jacob, I know you're not going to come off of any hard-earned money, so considering I know you have an affinity for Casey's, if we were going to put a slice of breakfast pizza on the line, would you be more inclined to say Creighton nabs the 2 or Nebraska nabs the 3, respectively, in their conference tournament?
Why not both?
Yeah, hey, there's
it's on the table.
There's a clear path.
Yeah, I haven't studied. I know some of the results that happened yesterday obviously went that way. It'd be wild if the Big East standings work out to where Marquette drops to the 4th spot. Seeing Hall get the 3, that would be pretty crazy. I'd enjoy that. But I think Creighton. I think they can take care of business in this one. Again, with time to prepare, what they know what's on the line, and the way they've been playing recently outside of that St. John's game. I think they can go get that one. They take care of their business, and they'll be in good shape. And then Nebraska, with the big win for Michigan State, knocking off Northwestern now. I said I haven't studied all the scenarios yet for the Big Ten, leaving that to Sauter. But it seems like they're getting the results they need, and if Nebraska can kind of do what they're supposed to against Michigan, which I don't know that you can take that as a given just because of what we saw at Ohio State.
But Ohio State's better than Michigan, right?
Oh, they 100% are.
Yeah.
But also they were without their best player.
Yeah, fair.
So right off the Indiana game, you thought, okay, they fixed it. They figured out how to come ready to play on the road against a team they're better than. And then the Ohio State game happened. So I don't know, just a little bit of pause there, but I do think they'll be able to take care of business there. They got Doug McDaniel back, Michigan did, but Olivia Conway's out now. So you lose one of you get your best player back and you lose one of your others. So I think let's just go for it. Creighton's a 2, Nebraska's a 3. Let's have some fun.
Young Yaakov, before we get into individual players and performances of the games in Class A yesterday, let me ask you a general question. As most of those games were tightly contested, even Central that got it to 10 at the end, it was closer than that. For you, was yesterday more about role guys stepping up or the dudes being the dudes if you were going to write a chapter on how yesterday went?
So I think in general, it was the role guys, and then there was Dale Ron Thomas.
So isn't it? I told Ravi when the segment started, I said yesterday seemed to be a lot about the other guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the first session in A, Jane Jackson stepping up and doing what he did down the stretch when really nobody was playing well in that game. Turnell and Dillon were kind of rolling through the first 3 quarters. Tough matchup there for Bell West, but like Bell West local guys weren't playing well, and then their stars weren't necessarily. Nobody was playing well for them, and then Jane Jackson just out of nowhere, bang bang, ball game. So that, and then obviously Isaiah McMorris' steal kind of sealed it or whatever, so you can throw that in the role player bucket. But with Jane Jackson hitting those 2 threes in the clutch, and talking stars is like. Jaden has to win this game or it's over. Like that's the only way that they're going to get themselves out of this hole here. And then like 30 seconds later, bang, bang, Bell West has the lead. And then Central with what Daron Thomas did, just 15 of his 32 in the 4th quarter. He went 4 of 4 from the field and 7 of 8 from the line. Just phenomenal finish of the game. Just putting his head down, going to the basket, some ridiculous finishes there. So that was certainly a star performance, but the other 2 games, Carson Healy for Westside swung that game. He nearly had a double-double.
Swung. He kept them in it the whole first quarter, right? Like that was about as lazy, not lazy like effort, but like a ho-hum start to a game like that for Westside. And he was the glue for 3 quarters of that first quarter. 50-50 balls, the threes, the offensive rebounding.
In the first half alone.
Right? Like
a big 3 in the 4th quarter.
So. He kept them in it.
Yeah. So that really, that was the different. And then at Southeast, Dengi led them in scoring 17-9. When maybe Tay Moore, you guys locked in on him pretty well. kind of try to get it going in the fourth quarter to lead them back. And that game was back and forth the whole way. That was a really competitive game there. Kind of a nice little way to close out the day. And then, Millard North, it's hard to, like, they got so many guys there, but I guess it was kind of a star performance there with Derek Rollins taking over in the fourth quarter. Had 9 of his 16 in the fourth after kind of a quiet first 3 periods there where it was Neal and kind of Eli keeping them alive there. But we had 9 from Camden Money, had a couple of clutch buckets.
I really, you know this. I'm a big Money guy. Like,
and his defense on Cade Cook as well.
He made it miserable, and they kind of let it go. Like, he got him off his spots and made him have to clutch and gather and spin and turn. Like, Money is a dog.
Yeah. And then, so that kind of limited Cade Cook's effectiveness. And so you talk about role players. Joey B stepping out. He came out, obviously, football player playing South Dakota State next year, last basketball game. Dude came out firing.
Yeah, he plays hard, doesn't he?
Well, and that's kind of when he was younger, he was more of an offensive player, but obviously missed all last year. He's kind of accepted his role as kind of the glue guy. He might take one shot, might not shoot at all in a game. Like this season, that's kind of what he's been for them. But you could see he was out there like, this is it. I'm just gonna hoop. Like I'm gonna let it fly. I get open in the quarter, I'm shooting that big. That was a big part of their start. They came out, hit 5 threes, and hit 6 of their first 7 threes to take that 26-11 lead. And then they cooled off the rest of the way, and Millard North kind of got fire there. But
boy, when they share the ball, they are a handful.
Well, that's the 4 different guys hit the 6 threes to start the game. So it was everybody being part of it. So that was a fun game to watch. It's hard to, obviously, kind of being as close as to all this as I am. Like, I know everybody on both sides, so state's always kind of awkward for me because I'm always going to have like friends or kids I coach or whatever winning and losing in most of these games, especially in the like Class A.
100% with you, Jacob, and that's even having a kid at Westside. Like, there's so many other families around the state that I love.
Yeah, I'm sitting there like, oh, I don't want this Gretna story to end, rooting for that, but at the same time, it's like, do I really want to see Millard North go down like this? So it's kind of awkward sitting there. So just kind of sit back and let it play out and kind of react to how it ends or whatever. But man, talking to Bill Hurd after the game, just how proud he was of those kids and what they've done all season long to inspire that school, that community, and the state in general. Like, obviously, I think everybody's paid attention to what they've done this year. This is a team that obviously typically you don't remember first teams that go out in the first round, but this is a team that people are going to remember for a long time.
Yeah, I have to give Coach Hurd a lot of credit because when we talked to him
he's a stud,
Tuesday,
man. He is the real deal.
He had a perspective on this season that I really wasn't expecting him to be that open about,
especially as competitive as he is, right, Jake? Like, he stays on the gas.
But he straight up says, like, I don't know how much basketball matters right now. I mean, like, that's the thing that he said to us. Not to say that he doesn't care about the results, but I think he was uniquely kind of perfect for this Gretna team in this moment that they're going through. And, obviously, I was rooting for Millard North, but I still, when you see that Gretna team lose and you see their guys just all kind of bend over at the waist and like you see the moment hit them, like that was hard to watch.
Yeah. I think like Avery was sitting next to me. I think she was getting emotional, and obviously she's not even as connected to all this as a lot of us are. So just you see Landon at the end putting his head down and Neal going over and trying to console him as best he could. Like that was a pretty cool moment. Those are the guys that have been competing against each other their entire lives, and just in that moment to kind of realize, like, all right, this is beyond basketball here, and this is a guy in pain. I just want to let him know that everybody's thinking about what they've done this year. That was pretty cool. Landon has nothing to hang his head about. Like, he was phenomenal. Went out the way he's played his whole career, just going at it, making plays for himself, making plays for his teammates, and competing. So there was a tough way for that to end, but I'm happy that Gretna was able to make this run and get there, because seeing I mean, that it looked like the entire town of Gretna was sitting there in the stands, and then kind of the moment when they announced Brad Seacon as head coach during the starting lineup, that was a really cool thing.
Yeah. Hey, JP, you've seen a lot of basketball. And I know your Rolodex doesn't go way back, but far enough for comps. And in a day where I saw a lot of guys take some what I would call ill-advised shots or not maximize their teammates. I looked at Minor Strong's performance yesterday, and I almost wish he would be a little more selfish. When you look at his game and he's kind of a quiet career for, I think, as good a player as he is. I heard a lot of coaches around me talking and asking about Minor Strong. Is he a guy that you could see in like 2 years pops up somewhere and he's playing at a high level and you're like, oh yeah, I can see that coming? Or is like, not to go all ceiling and floor, but do you have a comp for Minor?
Yeah, that game was tough. It really seemed like kind of the early foul trouble took him out of his rhythm.
It did.
Took away from some of what he does best. I think Minor's single best skill is just his hands and length and anticipation defensively. I've never seen anybody better at picking pockets or getting in passing lanes than he is. I think we've seen some phenomenal on ball, just straight up move your feet, guard you defenders that come through here, like the Sharees, the Kyries, and people like that. But just in terms of disruptiveness and steals and that type of thing, Minor's as good at that as I've seen. So I think that's kind of really where he shines. Offensively, he's developed pretty well. He's got the pull up. He's shot pretty well from three this season. Fortunately for him, I seem to be his bad luck charm. I think maybe his 3 or 4 worst shooting games of the year were the 3 or 4 that I saw of them this season. I know he had a pretty darn efficient season overall. So I just happened to catch the wrong ones this year, but I have seen him play quite a bit. So yeah, again, he's sneaky athletic. He'll go down, and that dunk in that Tapio South game, that was dang. I was not expecting. I'd seen him dunk on breakaways or whatever, but I don't know that I'd seen him go on somebody's head, go right at him in traffic like that. So yeah, there's definitely some potential there to untap as he continues to develop wherever he ends up next year.
What are you guys looking forward today? Are you guys going to stay together or split up?
No, I'm heading over to Devaney for C1. I've got 3 of my Nebraska kids that I coached last summer playing for their teams.
That's DB's favorite class.
It is my favorite class.
Yeah. It made sense for me to for us to split up a little bit. Sauter can handle the Carter Nelson show, and that'll be an interesting game there over there in D1. I'm sure might see some similar faces out there in the crowd. Although I saw Dylan Raiola was out there watching the Westside game.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He was in attendance. I liked the fact that he kept a pretty low profile.
Yeah, just chilling over there in the corner. So enjoying the show. But so yeah, I'll be at C1, and then I'll head back for the B night session to close out the day at PBA. So we'll have coverage of for C1 and B, trying to spread it out a little bit today.
People forget that there was a Nebraska football commit playing last night too, not just over today at
I'm still bothered by his on the ball defender reference.
That he didn't throw Caleb in there. I knew it. As he's saying Sharif, and I'm like, man, he's not gonna say Caleb, and DB's gonna be mad.
Hey,
throwing back to names that we've seen in college already.
Well, no, I was hoping you'd say, well, somebody's got to keep him in check. Hey, let me ask you this though, JP, because there's so many storylines, and I know you talk about emotion, and I was talking to Mike yesterday, and it closed the end of an era for Humphrey St. Francis yesterday, and he's got a heck of a connection to that school, and he kind of was having a moment with me on the phone, and I just was like, I had to kind of take a step back, because when you cover high school, you develop these personal relationships, and you've seen things happen from a while, or from afar and up close, and you kind of know the grind. Is that one of those co-ops with with what's going to happen and the decision with the Archdiocese there. Does that kind of register for you? Because co-ops aren't always easy. Sometimes they're necessary. Like, did that touch you at all with what's going on there?
Yeah, I was glad for them that the boys and girls were able to make run and kind of end it there. It is so with the co-ops are kind of weird because a lot of them like have already been established before, especially the successful ones, like the ones that you see at state or whatever. That's just kind of how it's always been. So like I haven't spent a whole lot of time like thinking about like the dynamics behind the co-ops just because like BRLD, any whatever it is, like that's just Humphrey, Lindsay, Holy Family, like all these. That's just kind of what it is. Like I only see these schools through the lens of their basketball teams or their athletic teams or whatever. So it's kind of more like just what it is. But this one is kind of strange because like St. Francis in particular has been so successful. Like you see them every year, every other. Like they've made so many deep runs at state. They're so successful over the years. So to have a program like that, kind of with outside of their control, to lose that identity and whatever is going to happen here, it's just going to feel different for them, I'm sure. And like heck, they had a freshman led them at 19-10 for them. That was a heck of a battle for the Flyers with Shelton there. Like Shelton was in serious trouble and then closed it out at the end. But really impressive way for St. Francis to go out. They went down swinging and gave the 1 seed all they could handle.
That's our guy, Jacob Padilla, Hurrdat Sports. You have a busy few days ahead of you. We appreciate you getting up early for us. I know this is a little ahead of your typical wake-up call, so we appreciate that, JP. And try not to let Sauter drive you too crazy as you guys are bunking together for the next couple days, all right?
Yeah, I've gotten used to him, so I can deal with it.
Do you know the beautiful thing about you two spending time together? You know what I really hope rubs off on Sauter? Is your uncanny ability to be objective, right? Like, work on him with that. Would you like hold his hand, JP, and be like Obi-Wan for me, all right? Get to young Skywalker
with arms wide open.
With
arms wide open.
There's only so much I can
do. He's probably steaming Willie Beam, and he won't give me back my Metro ID pass because he looked out for me last night. Tell him I'm
you can't be dropping that all over the place. Come on now.
Man, your boy is haphazard. I was just trying to get to where I could hide.
That's our guy, Jacob Padilla, Hurrdat Sports. You can follow him on Twitter, NEB Preps on Twitter, and Mike Sauter on Twitter to get all of your high school boys basketball coverage throughout the weekend. JP, we appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
All right, we've got more Hurrdat Sports coming up next here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. SDB, I'm Ravi Lulla, and we are brought to you by the Omaha Supernovas. They play on the road on Saturday against the Orlando Valkyries. You can follow along at supernovas.com, and that's also where you can buy tickets to their next match at home a week from today against the Atlanta Vibe at the CHI Health Center. That is a 7 p.m. first serve. Make sure you get to supernovas.com. Check out the schedule. You can follow along with road games. You can get merch as well. Everything you need to know about Omaha's professional volleyball franchise at supernovas.com. So I'm scrolling through the internets during, well, because, I'll just try to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Just getting your scroll game right.
Yeah, and I click on this link on ESPN.com because I'm like, that can't possibly be what I think that says. I know you're a big boxing guy.
100%.
I don't know if you're a big Jake Paul guy.
I am not.
He's fighting Mike Tyson this summer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the rumor. I'm sure it'll get a ton of interest. He would have to pay Mike a substantial amount of money to not kill him.
I'm sure he's paying him a lot of money. I don't know if it's to not kill him.
And there's lots of rumors out here about the Pauls paying guys to not give them their best. I'm not mad at Anderson Silva. Still don't know if he got hit by that punch, but hey.
Mike Tyson might kill him though.
He's still terrifying.
Oh yeah, have you seen his videos?
Look, Mike Tyson is one of those guys, a lot like well, I don't know how much you get into boxing, but a lot like guys that I grew to like that I didn't like early, like Miguel Cotto.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Guys where I'm like, but then they aged better, right? I didn't like Andre Ward early.
Okay, fair.
I love Andre Ward now.
Okay.
That's Tyson. Didn't really like him during his career because I was a Holyfield guy.
Sure.
But as I've kind of I love a good comeback story. He's like really smart now when he's not on the cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
He's very insightful. Don't disrespect the folks out there that enjoy good cannabis. Mike just gets a little squirrely. Like he told some great stories about wanting to fight Jordan over dinner.
Yeah.
And Robin Givens. Like I like the way Tyson has aged. He's very wise. He seems wise. He'll tell you about what to do, what not to do. He's honest about his shortcomings. Like those are the people that I cheer for.
He seems like he's found a certain level of peacefulness in his life.
And he still trains like a monster.
Yeah, he's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's why I clicked on it, because I was like, there's no way Jake Paul is putting himself in the same zip code.
I'm still mad at the Pauls for like needling Ryan Garcia. And I don't know how much you follow the Ryan Garcia story, but there are some that think that he's
having a mental health issue right now.
Right. And I mean, when you bring in sex trafficking and you make some of the reference he's made, like he's going to get some people to look into it, especially with what's going on with, Puff and all this other stuff and
kind
lawsuits.
of the world at large.
It just seems like everything, it's like free for all now.
Yeah.
Like everybody's telling.
Yeah.
So, I'm out on the Pauls.
I have never been in on either of them, and for the life of me, I can't tell the difference between the two. But I just couldn't believe that he would actually put himself in a ring with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a terrible idea.
He may have a little Ravi in him, like that irrational confidence.
Dude, I have irrational confidence. I'm not going anywhere near Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
That's beyond irrational confidence. That's pure idiocy. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, maybe he's giving Mike a nice chunk of change to get it to such and such a round. Because if Mike lets it all hang out, even if it's only for 70 seconds, Paul couldn't escape him.
I don't want to see someone murdered on Netflix.
Well,
that's apparently where it's going to be aired.
If there's one thing that the Pauls are good at, it is generating revenue for odd things.
It surely is, but that's going to be hard to do when you no longer have a face.
Yeah, there's just no way. The face. So everybody says that, like, the face thing is fine, right? He's breaking ribs.
Oh, for sure. He's breaking everything.
I don't care. Like, I have a lazy eye from getting hit, but just the broken ribs, the collapsed lung, the kidney, the ruptured spleen. See, those are things.
Internal bleeding.
Yeah, those are things that are a lot worse.
Well, and I mean,
that you swelling my eye shut.
I know that Tyson is older than George Foreman was, but if we learned anything from George Foreman, the punch is the last thing to go.
Mm-hmm.
That power, right, is the last thing to go. I didn't mean to talk about this. I was clicking around.
Do you know how old Mike Tyson is?
He's pushing 60, isn't he?
He's 58.
Yeah. And so he's significantly older than Foreman was. Foreman was 42, 44 when he went back against Hasim Rahman.
Yeah. Yeah. And Foreman made the run. Remember, he got Michael Moore. And I mean,
so he's further.
You met Chris, right? Kravanek?
Yeah.
He says, put me down for wanting to see a dude murdered on Netflix. I mean, he's the Narcos guy, and he has those weird tendencies. Yeah. Chris he's one of my more disturbing friends.
Well, I think that happens when you've spent as much time in Arkansas as he has.
How'd you like that story?
Nothing but love, Chris. Don't come after me.
Dude doesn't carry shovels just for work.
But I did not intend to talk about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson this morning, but I couldn't believe my eyes when I was,
So going back to something Jacob said, I don't want to let you off the hook.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So the 2 and the 3 seed, the 2 for Creighton, the 3 for Nebraska.
Yes.
So if I gave you 4 choices, A is none, B is Creighton as the 2, C is Nebraska as the 3, D is both.
Yeah, so if they both win, I think they both get the seed. If I'm understanding, I was trying to Google the brackets and standings and tiebreakers during the break. So if they both win, I think they both get it. And if they both lose, there's opportunities, but it's harder. I think
neither the 2, the 3, or both. Why?
I think both.
Okay, so but you're a little more skeptical about Nova than me.
No, I'm more skeptical on Nebraska and Michigan than you are.
I'm not ultra confident.
Okay, so I misread then. I'm
not ultra. I was facetiously building the case.
Yeah.
For the 10 a.m. body clock start on Senior Day.
Yeah.
In Ann Arbor, because that is an 11 a.m. tip.
That
is the worst case scenario for Nebraska.
Yes,
in my opinion,
it's a bad scenario for them. I don't know on any given minute what Michigan is as a basketball team or program, so that always makes me nervous.
I wish I knew whether they were in a hurry to get the heck out of Dodge, or they're actually going to try to because even if they rally one good time, you're like, you really think they want to go to Big Ten tournaments?
Not really.
Eh.
I could see them winning against Nebraska and then getting bounced. First opportunity at the Big Ten tournament.
I think
so. I'm more uncertain about Nebraska than Creighton.
I'm just kind of going through my quick, and it's very quick because it's in the last 10 seconds. Mental Rolodex. Typically, teams like this won't rally one good time. Coach Howard's been sick. It's been an emotional roller coaster. I don't now if this was gearing up one good time because they could make a run.
That's different.
It would be different than gearing up one good time to come back home a week later
to have a showing. Yeah, that's fair.
So if Nebraska comes out and gives them a little momentum, that would be a little concerning because
Nebraska has to start well.
Well, listen, Michigan could very well be a team that is ready to go home.
Yeah,
you think they could still make brunch? How late do you think they still serve brunch in Ann Arbor?
Depends. Sometimes you can get it as late as like 2.
There are a lot of places around the arena.
You can get it as late as like 2 sometimes. So they can probably make brunch still.
Maybe hop over to the facility because that is the best meal of the day.
They might have to go in their gear still, but they could probably get some brunch. Get a late brunch.
Are you a little fearful of Nova?
I mean, only because I'm
you just
a generally nervous
badmouth
person.
Neptune for 4 minutes.
I don't think Neptune is very good at this.
That's the kind of stuff that comes back to bite you in the bunda.
That doesn't listen. They could beat Creighton. That doesn't mean Kyle Neptune's better at his job. Like that doesn't mean it's a better coach team.
Yeah.
It could be. It's an outlier. Like they beat Creighton earlier this year.
It's funny how you can separate those two things. That would kind of be the anti-Dan Holken.
You got to be able to. You got to keep it separated.
Shane, who sings that song?
The Offspring. Yep.
Man.
90s is my wheelhouse, baby.
It's from the Smash album.
Coming up next.
Both of you guys are scared.
We got Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. Let's make some money. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. As we get ready to talk to B. Edwards here. And just a reminder, there's a $1 million perfect bracket challenge out there for our friends at Warhorse Casino. If you want to take some of B. Edwards' plays over to Lincoln, you can get entries into that $1 million bracket challenge with a $50 sportsbook wager. Each one of those gets you another entry. Even if you don't get a perfect bracket, you can still get $10,000 in prizes for the top brackets. Make sure you get those entries in before March 14th to be eligible, and you have to be a Warhorse Rewards member as well, and go activate your entries in person at the Warhorse Casino in Lincoln starting March 18th. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. Go to warhorsecasino.com for more details. Joining us now on the video stream, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, is our guy B. Edwards. What's going on?
Good morning, gentlemen. How we doing?
Good, B. How are things?
Oh man, that was a nice win for the Gators the other night.
That was a dusting. That's a classic spot, wasn't it? Revenge game at home.
Yeah, I thought we were going to be -3 or 4, and when we opened +1.5, I was like, huh? But I woke up the next morning and we were favored by 2.
It didn't take long.
One.
2, you could have given yourself 15 and been okay.
Sure. Man, this I tell you what, this card UFC is almost as good as UFC 300. I mean, if you guys taking a look at the whole thing, man, it's good.
It's deep. Well, I got to ask you though, are you an O'Malley guy by like as his style, or do you like him as a fighter?
I like him a lot. Now I'm not, real high on dudes doing their hair color green, yellow, and purple, but I like him.
Sugar. Yes. It's Sugar. Okay, Sugar.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll let it slide, man. He's got style. He's got style.
Oh, I know I wouldn't say much to him.
That's probably
no, heck no.
Do you usually have an angle on rematches? Like, do you have kind of a rule of thumb?
I don't know. Do you? I mean, I think it's just
not
depends on how. Yeah.
Not particularly. I think sometimes, like, if a guy dominates the first time around and he didn't do what he's kind of known for, like if a guy's a grappler and a guy's a stand-up guy and the stand-up guy wins grappling, like I probably will lean that guy the next time around. But if it, you know what I mean? But nothing like steadfast.
Yeah, and I don't really know what we take because, like, okay, is Sugar Sean's skinny legs, are they just vulnerable to leg kicks? And that can happen anytime, kind of like it did? Or was that kind of a freak occurrence? What's it called? Drop foot, where he had the nerves were messing with it? I don't know what it's something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So
and you got to think Vera knows that.
Right. But there's also, Vera has gone he's been in his last 4 fights. 3 were main events, so he went into the 4th round and 1 and the 5th round and 2. O'Malley has never seen a 4th round, so I mean, I think Cheeto's plan is attack the legs, stay out of that power range, hopefully do some grappling, get him tired, and let's see where O'Malley is in the deeper rounds where he's never been.
All right, let's get into it. Let's start with my guy Poirier. He's actually not my guy. I do like him though. Really, really chunky plus money. And this one, what do you like?
Oh, I can't turn down. I can't turn down Dustin at this underdog price. I mean, there's just no way. He's never lost out of principalities. If I lose, I lose. He's won me way too much money to turn him down at this. So I got him plus 178 early in the week. I just DM'd you guys. What was the best price at Caesars? I think it was plus 190, but most folks are plus one. Yeah, plus 170, 175. That works. He's never lost back-to-back fights. Benoit Saint Denis. Now this is a young killer, and he's got a heck of a chin. But he's never been in there with anybody of Dustin's ilk. Now, he is a dangerous guy. He can certainly win this fight. He can turn Dustin's lights out for sure, but Dustin can turn his lights out too. And, Dustin's just been there, done that. I don't think he's lost a step. I mean, like he said in the interview with Brett Okamoto yesterday, I mean, he knows the end is near, and he said this might be his last one. He doesn't know, but out of principalities, give me Dustin.
Another one on the cards a little bit earlier in the prelims, Almeida and Blades. That's a kind of a pick 'em there, depending on where you're looking at. Short favorite odds, either minus 105, minus 110 for both of those guys where I'm seeing.
Blades is tough to cap, man.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go with my guy Almeida here. He's undefeated. I've been loving this since he got in there. I've done his props to win in round one and won a couple of times. Now he couldn't get the Black Beast out of there, but man, it's hard. It's hard to get the Black Beast to tap on the ground. But Almeida undefeated in the UFC. Blades has not been very active here lately. And look, when this fight was going to be in
that's what concerns me, right?
No, I hear
it's just he's been inactive. He was supposed to be a star. He kind of got stalled. Like, I just don't know where his head is. But he's capable.
Yeah, I mean, sure, he is. But, I mean, since March of 22, he had the Aspinall fight, which lasted 15 seconds. Aspinall blows his knee, and then he gets knocked out by Pavlovich in a little over 3 minutes. We know Blades is not a striker. I think Almeida beats him on the ground, and Blades is a heck of a wrestler. But Almeida, I like Almeida here, and that's probably my favorite pick of the card.
B, you've also got Gilbert Burns as a little bit of a favorite, plus 140, plus 145 in there against JDM. Do you like Burns on the little bit of juice there?
Yeah, so this is kind of a similar to Poirier. It's the young killer coming up, but JDM is not. I mean, I've only seen him fight twice. He didn't impress me that much. I think he's got a lot of hype behind him. Look, Gilbert blew his shoulder in the first round against Muhammad in his last fight. Before that, he beat Magny and Masvidal pretty easily. And before that, it was the war with Chimaev, which I thought he looked better than ever. Before that, he beat Wonder Boy. Before that, he almost knocked out Usman, and then he got knocked out the next round. But, I mean, Burns.
I remember that.
Yeah, and Burns, I just think he's still got it. He's kind of up there in age too, but he's a cardio machine. And, give me Burns at plus money. And JDM has not been in there with a guy of Burns's ilk, kind of the same way about the Dustin fight. So give me Burns catching the underdog odds.
All right, let's get to college hoops before we get you out of here. A little Pac-12 or it's still Pac-12 for this year before they.
I'll say for another couple months.
More than Pac-2 before they all go over to the Mountain West. But
we got a few more weeks.
Yeah.
We're just skipping baseball season? Oh, come on, B.
Hey, B, let me ask you something real quick. If you're on the outside looking in and you're not part of the Big Two, would you go out of your way as those other conferences to try to not schedule with those guys, not play nice, just kind of let them go do their own thing? How petty would you be if you were the remaining conferences?
I'd be very petty. I'd go to the Mountain West and try, and I would be extremely petty, 1,000,000% petty. As for tonight, I got to go with Oregon -3. So they're 12-2 straight up at home. The only losses to the only two Pac-12 teams that are locks for the tournament, Arizona and Washington State. And Colorado only 2-7, but straight up and against the spread on the road. And really that's most of the handicap there, but then I'll also add in the Colorado's Cody Williams, who averages 13.7 points per game and shoots 45.7% from three. He has missed back-to-back games with an ankle, is questionable tonight. And then Julian Hammond, who shoots 40% from three, averages 7.4 points per game. He's missed 3 in a row with a knee injury. He's questionable tonight. Without those two guys, their depth is really thin. Now, those guys might be back tonight. I don't know. But they might not be 100%, or they might not be back. Give me Oregon -3.
Gotcha.
B, real quick before we let you go, I know you've got a parlay on UFC 299. What do you like there?
Yeah, so let's go Macy Barber. These are heavy favorites, by the way. Let's go Macy Barber against, who's Macy fighting? Chukagian. And then let's also go with, Michelle Piella, -160. Then are you guys looking at my tweet? Because these
O'Malley.
What was my other one?
I think it's O'Malley.
Oh yeah, O'Malley. Yes, but look, if my first two win, and I'm looking at a +233 payout, if O'Malley wins, I might come back with a little bit of Cheeto, just to ensure a profit, and
just hedge a little bit.
Because I'll have. Yeah, just hedge a little bit because Cheeto, he can win the fight. So yeah, and then I also like Kevin Holland minus 130. And then in the early prelims, the heavyweight fight, I don't even know how you pronounce the guy's name, but his last 3 fights, he's won in 3 seconds, 12 seconds, and 4 seconds. He is got the longest reach in UFC history. His name's Rabelli Despain, and the prop to win in round 1, if it's minus 150 or cheaper, do that.
That's our guy, B. Edwards, Vegas
Gotcha, B.
Insider, Major Wager. That's our trying to make you some money. We appreciate it, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thanks, B.
We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are also on KFOR in Lincoln. You can find us live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. And something that I know we both did on our way over here this morning, that was use our seatbelts because it saves lives and prevents injuries,
100%.
but only if it's worn properly. Make sure it clicks. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Joining us now on the phone is our good friend Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, what's going on? Do we have Bruntz?
I don't have him yet.
Okay.
Shane, are you producing?
We will get to Bruntz here in a little bit, but
in Shane's defense,
it wasn't on the thing, but
he did not give you a name.
He did not put it on the thing. I was making an assumption. That's my bad here. I do want to remind you, we're going to talk to Coach Kuhn from Omaha Supernovas here in a little bit. And next week, not right now, want to give you a little time. Next week, we will be giving away tickets to both the March 14th, that's a week from today, and March 16th, that's Saturday, matches here in Omaha. So make sure you're tuned in. We will be giving away sets of 4 tickets to each match on the 14th and the 16th. So make sure you're tuned in, not only to Coach Kuhn for her interview, but also next week as we give away tickets so you can welcome the Supernovas back home after they've had a little bit of a road stretch here. We have Bruntz now?
Yep, we've got our guy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've got our guy, Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7 on the line. Bruntsy, what's going on?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Hi, Brunsy. How we doing this morning? You hanging in there?
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. Chugging along. How about you guys?
Good.
Anything I'm missing this morning?
No. I hung out with a couple baseball guys and Tristan Alvano last night, which was kind of cool. Got a little glean a little more insight. Those guys are ready for. I think they're ready for a good homestand, right? South Alabama presents a kind of. Is it sneaky or is it just a good test?
It's a good test.
There you go. There you go. It's a good team.
They have they've scheduled well this year.
Yeah, it's a good team.
They've scheduled well. So yeah, I'll be curious to see that they're going to have to deal with the real feel stuff, which they don't usually have to do. So that'll be interesting to see how South Alabama deals with that. But yeah, they're a good team, new pitching staff. So yeah. What else did you glean? I'm eager to hear what you gleaned.
Oh, we're gleaning things.
You can't leave that out there. And
so generally speaking, nothing I don't think you don't know. Like you have a really good pulse. Like I think they really, really like that grimy, kind of grindy. Like I think they're excited about this year to kind of grow into that role. I think they want to be a team that kind of like wears on other teams' spirits. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, like you can kind of tell by their temperament. It's just a grimy group.
It's interesting. I don't know who you were hanging out with, but
I didn't want to put them on blast, but I'll text you later. Yes,
a lot of JUCO guys.
Yes,
on this roster.
Yes,
and you don't want to you never want to put a guy in a box, right? And say this is kind of what they are personality-wise and whatever. But I mean, when you're riding buses through rural Kansas and playing 4 games on the weekends, they got guys that played JUCO ball in middle of nowhere, New Mexico. Overbeek was in Texas. Like you kind of look at things a little bit differently, I think is probably the best way to put it. And I think they did that. I think the coaching staff kind of did that by design. I mean, they're a group of coaches that all, went through JUCO or coached in it or have some experience with it. And I think that kind of worldview aligns a little bit more closely with the types of teams they want to have.
I mean, Bruntz, you really got to love baseball to do the JUCO thing, right? Like, it is not a glamorous affair by any means.
No, it's not at all. And
that's in any sport, not just baseball, but especially baseball.
Yeah, especially baseball. It's a lot of games. It's some JUCO and baseball is one of the things too where, like, in football you get guys that bounce back. There's guys that have talent. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, in JUCO you see guys that are like legit like MLB prospects.
Yeah.
That are just kind of hanging around in the middle of nowhere pumping 95. Like that's kind of what you see. So it's a different approach, and you got to really love it, and you got to really like you got to be a worker to get out of there. I think it's probably the best way to put it, and I think that kind of aligns more with what Bolton and Steph want.
I like that. You got to be a worker to get out of there.
Kind of continuing with the culture theme, Bruntz. Last night, a lot of folks in attendance, like Josiah Alec and Dylan and I think I saw Luke Lindemeyer. There were a ton of guys, Alvano, football guys in attendance. But I thought it was pretty cool, and it's early, but so Danny, Luke, and Dylan, Kalen all kind of sat together with Chase Lofton, and I thought not only was it interesting, right, with the whole Raiola and Lofton thing, a college guy with a high school guy hanging out, but I like the two quarterbacks spending time together. Is that one of those things where it's something about nothing, and it's spring ball is not for 2 more weeks, or do you kind of like at least the preliminary of, oh, that's cool, like I need for guys to get along?
Yeah, I mean, I think that helps. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you have 2 freshman quarterbacks coming in. I mean, they should still be in high school, and
both of them, yeah.
And I think you kind of get a sense of each of their personalities by how much they're kind of just around. I mean, I don't think that the description of either of those guys would be aloof. I mean, they're not, they get it. Like, and I think they, my sense is they genuinely enjoy being around. I can say that more about Danny Kalen just because I've gotten to know him a little bit more than Raiola, obviously. But
yeah, he appears to be a good, really good natured.
Yeah, but I mean, like, think back to like last spring and this summer. I mean, how many times was Danny Kalen in Lincoln just hanging out and helping to recruit and doing what he could? I mean, so it doesn't shock me that those guys are just kind of hanging around. And if you're going to have one of those guys starting for you sooner than later, I think it kind of helps to have the locker room kind of see him around and doing things and just kind of being normal, I guess, rather than this hotshot quarterback or somebody that thinks they're better than other guys on the roster. I mean, that kind of stuff matters, especially when you start talking cultures and kind of how Matt Rule wants to do things.
Yeah, Bruntz, it's kind of a weird dynamic, right? Because you kind of have to have this outsized confidence in your, like, if you decide to come to Nebraska as the best QB recruit in the country or as an Elite 11 guy or whatever, you have to have sort of an outsized confidence that you can be the one that gets Nebraska back to where they want to be. But then you also kind of, like you're talking about, have to have this humility of, I'm just another one of the guys. Like, that's kind of a strange dynamic when you think about it.
It's a really weird kind of cocktail of confidence and self-awareness that you have to have. And, to have to do that at 18, it's kind of like, at that age, it's kind of like you almost have it or you don't,
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of always been the thing that I think kind of impressed me the most about Daniel Kalen, aside from the on the field stuff, is he just kind of had the personality that, he just was a really, well dialed in kid. And it's tough as a quarterback to do that. I think we've seen at Nebraska recently where quarterbacks have come in and maybe not, meshed really well with the locker room for a number of reasons. So that kind of, I guess, getting off to a good start there is really important. And I don't know, maybe it helps too that you have so many early enrollees that are around, they're freshmen, early enrollees, same age, things like that. I think that kind of helps a little bit too, because you kind of naturally have a group of guys that you can gravitate towards that are going through what you're going through.
Bruntz, I know you're going to probably there's going to be some sarcastic comment coming. You don't strike me as a Big Ten standings watch guy, right? You're not like dialed into what other teams are doing, but are you envisioning Nebraska as a potential number 3 next weekend, or like where's your level of anticipation?
So whether or not we intended to do this, it just kind of happened this way. But BC has been like the tournament seeding scenario, Big Ten tournament seeding scenario guy.
He's been the guru.
He's got the big chalkboard up there. He's doing algebra. He's got the stat. He's got the little slide rule going.
Is he going like full Charlie Day on us with the strings and the whiteboard?
Dude, that is too smart. I just want to be a fly on the wall for with you in BC.
Yeah. So he's doing Big Ten stuff. I've been dialed into everything that I can find about what Bart Torvik is saying about anything. That's my purview.
Now it is cool how you can plug in some things. He has a very manageable site.
He does. So yeah, so Torvik, I got to know at all hours of the night what Minardi's thinking. That's where I'm at.
So you're the bracketology guy,
dude. I think he kind of. I think Lunardi kind of trolls Nebraska.
I have to be careful how I say this, but Jerry Palm seems like the one that's been the lowest on Nebraska for several weeks now.
Yeah.
Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah. Why do you have to be careful? Are you guys uniquely connected?
We're coworkers.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, is he like? Is he watching? Is he watching your kind of?
No, I don't think so. But
I could just imagine Jerry Paul just picking up the phone and be like, "Hey, listen,
yeah,
hey, Bruntz."
That's my favorite football team is an AFC team, and I've got to be very careful about how I say things too. So, but no, I can back to your way original question. Yeah, I could see him as a 3. BC tells me that it's possible. You've got some other teams that have a little bit more of a tough road into the clubhouse. So I mean, if you're Nebraska, just go handle your business and let everybody else do what they're going to do. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild. Like, I mean, if you go back to October and you're like, okay, Nebraska's got a chance to be a double bye, the 3 seed in the Big Ten. They've been in bracketology talks since essentially like the first week of January. Like, I hope that people really just kind of take a step back and appreciate just kind of the magic carpet ride that this season's been to this point, because there weren't a whole lot of people out there that kind of had this in their sights back in October and November.
You know, Bruntz, since you're doing the bracketology thing, have you kind of gone all mad scientist yet and been like, okay, you know, I know you mentioned Bart Torvik's side. Have you gone like, okay, if Nebraska wins here at Michigan, but then they lose this point, and because I assume you're trying to keep them either in that 10 line or bump them all the way up to a 7, which I think they'd have to win the Big Ten tournament to get to a 7. But so are you kind of doing a little mad scientist? Like, okay, what point do they have to lose in the Big Ten tournament to keep me at a 10?
It depends who gets there, I guess. And that's, I mean, maybe once we kind of know on Sunday how everything shakes out, you get a better idea then. But it doesn't feel like there's going to be, like, there's not a ton of movement unless they just win the whole thing. You know what I mean? The Big Ten tournament. Like,
sure.
Like, I kind of struggle to see them getting to a 7. I mean,
they'd have to win it to get there.
Yeah, they have to win the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, and even to get to like an 8, you know, that feels like a tall order right now.
We don't want that anyway, Bruntzy.
No, you don't. You want the 10
or the 10 or the 7.
My fear is they like make it to the Big Ten championship game. That bumps them to an 8 or a 9,
Stop.
and then you're in no man's land.
You don't have to do that with them. It's a good team.
I know, but that's not a good spot to be in. You can be a good team in a bad spot. That's a real thing.
The thing. Calm down. The thing.
Right? Simmer down, Ravi.
The thing you don't. the thing you don't want, I mean, a couple of the bracketology guys have had Nebraska in that 7-10 against BYU for like 3 weeks now in Salt Lake City, and I don't believe, and they say they would do it, but I find it hard to believe that Nebraska has any shot of playing in Omaha as a 10. Like it's not in the cards. I don't think.
It's funny you say that, and I'm not gonna sit here and believe you are religiously listening to the show, but I've been talking about BYU for like since I've been back because I see what you see. So and I stayed up last night because Ding Dong Ravi texted me about the ending of the BYU game. So I had to come home from Lincoln and start over. And I'm like, well, what is he talking about? Because he wanted to talk me off the ledge that Iowa State could be a good team. So I'm like, oh, gosh, I could kill two birds with one stone. And 27 hours later and no sleep, I'm like, I don't want to play BYU. I think BYU is pretty good, even though, Bruntz, their metrics are very similar.
Yeah, they are. And there's a couple teams that Nebraska, if they're in that 7-10, like I think it just because it lines up with my just kind of the way my sleep patterns work. I end up watching a lot of Mountain West basketball.
Good on you. Good on you.
I would not want to see a couple like Boise State in the 7-10 would scare me a little bit. Just based on
heck, they're not going to be a 7 or a 10, but I wouldn't want to play UNLV. I wouldn't want to play Colorado State. I don't want to play any of them.
As a Creighton fan, I can vouch for that. You don't want to play either of those.
Yeah. Dude, Colorado State's good.
Yeah, they are.
Nevada won't be a 7, but I mean they're a tough out. But I mean those types of teams, like there's a chance that if you go in as a 10, you're probably seeing a really veteran, battle-tested Mountain West team as a 7, and that's I mean I think Nebraska would be fine in those situations, but I think it would be a street brawl, I mean, for lack of a better word.
Ravi poo-pooed me, so I'm just going to ask somebody with some actual sense, even though you guys kind of have that Millard North thing. If I don't tell me who you think's going to win it, tell me who you think should win it. If I give you, and this is on the heels of Purdue beating Illinois, but if I give you Zach Edey and Connect, who's Bruntz's player of the year?
In the Big Ten, I mean,
no, just in general,
national
player of the year.
National. I'm a lazy voter. It'd probably be Edey, right?
See, oh my gosh,
and that's
you're not a lazy voter, Bruntz.
I'm not a basketball voter in general.
This is hypothetical. What about Bruntz crunching numbers daily screams lazy? Oh my gosh, you know who the fourth guy off the bench to pinch hit for Nebraska is, and you want me to think you're a lazy voter?
There's a finite amount of brain cells that I have.
And gosh.
I can only dedicate it. I can't dedicate it to the national basketball conversation.
This is my point. This is my point. Because
I can't believe he used the term lazy voter. It plays into your wheelhouse.
There's a difference between being lazy at your job, which Bruntz is not, and being lazy voter in the sense of, hey, I don't cover this. It's hard for me to be aware of it nationally. Like, right, Bruntz? Like, there's a very different thing.
The guys that are voting cover it.
I'm also trying to avoid getting yelled at. For something that I say here. So,
well, I mean, DB just yelled at you anyway. So I mean,
I know. Here's a like talking about lazy voters. Is Fred Hoiberg the Big Ten Coach of the Year?
100%.
Yes, he should be.
Do you think he will be?
I think it's like a coin flip with him and Collins.
Thank you, guys.
So are you worried about the whole Northwestern vibe thing? Because Northwestern had a good record last year, too. Nebraska came from further along. It should that's not lazy. That's pretty easy to see.
I wonder, though, if people look and say, well, we'll just give it to Matt Painter. Or we'll get to Painter because
Matt Painter's lazy. Well, that's being lazy.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. Yeah. Like how, because you start talking about like, okay, first team all Big Ten, second team all Big Ten. Where does Nebraska's guys fit in? I mean,
lot of
they
these
might
guys,
not have any on the top two teams.
right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if you're a more dialed in voter, perhaps you would be more willing to consider Bryce Williams or Rink or somebody like that, even though the stats aren't going to be as flashy compared to other guys in the conference.
I like Bryce. I'm a Bryce Williams guy.
Well, that's why we need Mike DeCourcy and guys like that, because he actually pays attention. He said, Bruntz, I think you're trolling me, because you used a term that this guy's been resting all his laurels on for weeks, and you just casually said lazy voters. He doesn't want to give any humans any credit. He thinks they're just innate. He just thinks we're innately lazy when it comes to awards.
I've seen too many awards be awarded lazily to think otherwise.
Yeah, this is actually one that I think I can stand on Ravi's side on this one.
Finally.
And he doesn't like to, right?
Well, you have so many hot takes.
Well, no, it's not just that. I think there's like a little brother dynamic here. Him and my big brother were friends, so he's seen me like grown up. So I think there's like a little part of him that's like, I don't know if I can agree with little brother here.
That's cool. You had a chance to slap him down, and he drops the term lazy voter. Jiminy Christmas.
Listen, sometimes I'm so right that it just can't be refuted.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruntz. Yeah, I'm glad you got this whole. It's going to be an enjoyable next 40 minutes with this clown.
Yeah, sorry. You're not going to be hearing about this next week at all, are you?
No, because he's not a receipt keeper.
I let go of things so quickly. Just let them go.
I do need one. I do need one subtle prediction for you, Ravi.
Okay.
If I give you the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, give me a team that was in the playoffs last year that will not be in the playoffs this year.
Diamondbacks? Is that a hot take?
I think people forget that they won the World Series. Or they're the pennant champs.
They're in the World Series,
they were in the World Series,
Yeah.
I should say.
Yeah.
Yes. People forget that. They do. It was a little bit of house money last year, though,
because
right?
they weren't very good. Like, I mean, they were
Right.
fine.
Wow.
They were they're an 80,
Ravi here for lazy takes.
they're like an 80-win team. Like during the regular season, they weren't that good.
Yeah.
Are right now, as things stand here in the start of March, are they second best team in the NL West? Third best?
It's hard for you to buy the Padres, isn't it? It's hard for me
is.
too.
Yeah.
It is.
So you're obviously putting them behind the Dodgers, even though they dealt the Dodgers fits last year.
Yeah.
I would give you second, probably.
Yeah, they're probably.
Okay.
I mean, probably. I'm just off. I know. Bruntz, are you a big run differential guy?
Oh, here we go.
Generally, yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna toss this out there. The best teams last year were in the plus 200-ish, high 190s, plus 200 range in run differential.
I get
Where
it.
do you think the Diamondbacks
Here we
were?
go.
I have no idea.
They were minus 15.
Okay.
Do you know who I thought you might say, Brunsy?
That's pretty bad.
I thought you might say the Brewers. That staff is kind of decimated. You got a guy that's probably going to miss a season. You moved Burt. I think the Brewers are in, and Council's in Chicago. I think the Brewers may be in trouble.
That's a good one. Who comes out of the NL Central then?
I don't know, man, but I think
somebody has.
I think legally they are obligated.
I'll
to have
tell you
someone.
who's going to have a bounce back year, and that's the Cardinals.
Yeah.
They're not going to have back-to-back bad years.
I don't know.
That's not true.
I don't know. We'll see. That's our guy, Michael Bruntz.
Thanks, Firestarter.
Husker 24/7. Listen, I'm very reasonable. I'm probably going to let this go. I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh yeah.
Start the fire, walk away.
Yeah.
Fire, walk away.
Yeah.
Just throw the match.
Thanks, Brunsy.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Yep.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We're about to talk to Coach Kuhn here from the Omaha Supernovas. But a reminder, you can go to supernovas.com to get tickets. They are back in town a week from today. That's March 14th at 7 p.m. at the CHI Health Center against the Atlanta Vibe. And then Saturday, March 16th against the Orlando Valkyries, who they actually play tonight. Go to supernovas.com to get tickets. Also, make sure you're listening next week because we will have a 4-pack of tickets to each of those matches to give away on the show as well.
And you're clamoring for 12K. You threw the gauntlet down last week.
And
11-9 wasn't cutting it.
It wasn't cutting it. Coach, as we bring in here, Coach Kuhn, we appreciate you joining us. I mean, can you send out the bat signal here? Like, I need 12K in the arena next time. We got to 11-9. Like, I need them to get over the hump there.
Yeah, like, let's do this, people. It's about time. It's about time for us to break that.
We were like 90 short. Like, I understand that the Omaha Supernovas have the top 5 records of professional volleyball of all time in the United States, but, like, I need a little bit more. We can do better, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there's people sneaking in, I know how that goes. Let's just scan your ticket. Get in there. Get counted. Get accounted for. We know there's more people in there than what we're actually counting. That's how it always is, right?
Absolutely.
So now we blow it through the water.
We got to get those numbers up. All right, guys, these are rookie numbers. So, Coach, I know you've got the Orlando Valkyries again tonight. The way the schedule sets up is a little unique with the first year of the Pro Volleyball Federation here. This is the 3rd time you'll have faced the Valkyries in the last few weeks. What are some of the challenges of facing a team in quick succession like that?
Well, we actually fly there tomorrow, so we're playing them Saturday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got my days all confused.
It's all good. But then what's crazy is I know why, because then we play them at home again this weekend. So
Yep.
I get it. But to your point, I think playing opponents so fast back to back, or even just within a week span of each other, it's the repeating of a win, and the matchups are going to be different because of the load management. Like, a lot of times, like the first time we played them, we knew the lineup was going to look different when we played them than down in Orlando because they had injuries, they had people out. So within that week and a half of playing them, it was like a different match because of the players that were on the court. And so that's going to be the nature of our league because of the back-to-back, the load of the matches and how we travel and just competing so close back-to-back on these matches.
So as the great equalizer, Coach, this was actually going to be my first question, is with the time in between, let's say, regardless of opponent, is managing the time in between the matches, is that a pro or a con? And is it offset by the familiarity potentially of seeing opponents on a quick turnaround?
I mean, I think it's a challenge. I don't know if it's a con, but it's a challenge. I mean, there is going to be days that we don't do as much, or we just give them completely off because the turnaround is so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's a con because the level and the experience and the maturity of the athletes that we're dealing with, it's not like they need a million reps. They need to hone their skill and practice. Maybe I think the level of play has gone up so much because we've all had time to train our teams and they get to play together. I mean, this sport is kind of like dancing. It's like you're learning each other while you're playing, and there is like a rhythm and flow to it. So now we're getting like deep into a month, 2 months into season. So you see the level of play rising because now these players have been playing with each other longer. And so I think that is the management of their load, but then allowing them time to still play and train together while having matches so close.
Yeah, as a former player and coaching at the collegiate level as well, it's like, is it cool that you're getting professionals that can give you feedback and you're kind of secure enough to receive it and say, oh, okay, I like that, or that's a good idea, where it may be a little different on the collegiate level or as a player where you maybe wouldn't give that feedback so freely to a coach because you don't know how it's going to be received?
Yeah, I think there's a mutual respect, and obviously there is a dialogue. There's always a dialogue.
Yeah.
Number one, when they're out there playing in the match, it might feel different than what we're seeing. And so it's asking questions, hearing them out, and making adjustments based on it. I mean, there's always going to be a game plan. There's going to be adjustments in match. But even training-wise, like, we kind of want their feedback, need to know how they're feeling, what they're needing. You know, when we practice, we have a shell of what we want to get done at practice. But then, like right now, they come in early. We show up early for extra reps, things they want to work on as individuals. So it is definitely I would say it's kind of that way in college, but it's way more of a structure of this is what we need to do because those players are younger and you have a younger mesh of players.
Yeah.
Here it's just different. It is fun. It is cool to coach them. and be able to have the conversations that we have just about the game and what they're seeing.
Coach, you mentioned earlier how the level of play has risen as your teams have, not just the Supernovas, but the teams throughout the league have been able to play together more and kind of mesh and gel a little bit. What are some of the biggest areas of growth you've seen as your team playing really well right now, won 5 of your last 6? What are some of the biggest areas you've seen them improve on?
Our defensive communication. I mean, even at practice, even as coaches, breaking down our systems and what we're really looking for and wanting to get out of, whether it's adjustments or responsibilities. I mean, even those conversations and dialogues, it's like amazing to me, but it takes time and understanding, because there are so many players that have come from different like teams and training systems, like understanding what we're doing and the concepts. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. It's like sometimes I'm like, wait, what? But it's like you need to lay it out there. You need to have the conversation. That's what's helping with the time in between right now. Like we've had time off. We've had this whole week to train and really break some things down with our system. And so understanding and communication is the key to making the rhythm look smooth and them to mesh better on the court. So that's been really cool to see.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this one. I was kind of tongue-in-cheek joking about getting that 12,000, although I do want the 12,000 here in Omaha. But
I do too.
I'm I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm glad I'm not on an island out here. But I'm curious. You've been to, I think, all of the other places except San Diego so far. Is that right?
Yep. Yes, correct. We have been.
How has the reception been? I see some of the numbers in terms of attendance, but how's the reception been in the other cities where, I think we all expected it to go over super well here in Omaha, the way Nebraska embraces volleyball. But what have you seen in terms of the reception of the teams in the league in the other places you've been?
It's been really cool, even on the road. I'm choking here, sorry. But I would say this, we have been a part of opening nights for Columbus, Vegas, not Orlando, but Orlando was pretty solid. So that's been very cool. So I would say the second time around will be more realistic because it hasn't been opening nights. But those environments and atmospheres, that's what you want to play in. Even in Atlanta, their crowd wasn't huge, but you could feel it. It was still a cool environment. And I think that's what this sport brings, the engagement, the energy of the volleyball and the play. And so it's going to be that way. I think in Orlando this weekend it's going to be huge because there's a big club tournament down there. So I think it's going to be even more people and fans than we had at the first match down there. And it's cool to see. And I think it's a good reminder for all of our athletes and us as coaches to feel what we're doing for our sport. And the volleyball community is very close knit. And that I think is what is cool when we hear from other coaches, we hear from these club teams and they're at our matches. It's just really special. So it's been awesome to be traveling all over the country. And then when we get to come back home, it's our solid, our 12,000, getting our 12,000 here. And everyone talks about Omaha because we have kind of set that bar. So it's really cool.
That is so awesome.
Coach Kuhn, we appreciate the time as always. Good luck on Saturday, not tonight, Saturday.
Thank you. But next Saturday we'll be home.
That's right. Next Thursday and next Saturday you'll be home. And we look forward to seeing you then. Good luck on Saturday, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
That is Coach Laura Kuhn of the Omaha Supernovas.
I know what threw you.
What's that?
Watching high school basketball last night.
It did, yeah. I was like, wait, no, tomorrow. What day is it? I'm all sorts of.
You're like,
you don't get a lot of Wednesday night.
I know
high school hoops.
I'm with you.
But no, we will give out tickets both for Thursday the 14th and Saturday the 16th next week. Want to make sure we give you some time to figure out your schedules. Make sure you're ready to try and get out to those games. And if you don't win tickets from us, go to supernovas.com. Get those.
I like how you slapped Shane down when he came in and he was like, hey, do you want to do the – no, we're going to do it next week. It's closer to the home. I was like –
listen,
Shane, I thought it was a good idea.
I want people to be aware what their schedules is.
And you clipped his wings with the amount of tickets. He wanted 6. You said 4.
No, we did 4. I think that was
like
got 8 total. I don't know.
I thought we were friends, Ravi.
Hey, tell him. Shane.
Well, I thought me and DB were friends. And
no, go hang out with Bruntz.
We're not friends anymore.
Go hang out with Bruntz. That's your fellow Mustang.
Listen, Bruntz is busy. He's got family. He's got all sorts of stuff to do.
My man said lazy.
I didn't call him that. I would never. Coming up, we'll wrap up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. As we're wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. I don't know what.
It's a good thing I've become the cool one.
I wouldn't go that far.
Calm down.
You're like, yeah, that's pushing it. They call you DB for a reason. It ain't your initials.
Just because you like me less doesn't mean that makes you.
That was
you
cool.
cooler.
Like when I used to like you a long time ago, about 10 minutes ago. That was awesome.
Back in the day.
How about how he just low key teed you up though? You've been on this lazy thing.
You asked the question. That's the best part.
Yeah, and he goes, "Well, I'm just gonna be a lazy." It was almost like you had your hand on his back,
just like puppeting.
Yeah, and I was like, "Stop letting people off the hook for not doing their job."
I'm not letting them off the
Yes, you
hook.
are. Yes, you are.
You asked me the question.
No, Ravi.
What do I think will happen?
You conceded that ignorance is bliss, so therefore it's okay.
No, I'm conceding that ignorance exists. There's a difference.
I don't trust it, so I'm not going to try to refute it.
I can refute it all I want.
It's going to be what it is. I can't change the outcome.
Also, you asked Bruntz a different question than you asked me. You asked Bruntz who he thinks should win it.
So, but guess what, though?
What?
Like,
because I think Connect should win it. I don't trust that he will.
I think you worded it a little differently.
I don't think I did.
Well, would you like to? Hey, for folks out there that want to say we said things we didn't say, we can queue up audio.
We can listen, and if it's out there and I said it differently, I'm happy to eat it.
Do you know who we should? You know who's the best at? So during that whole argument last week, which wasn't even really an argument, but Avery was the one that produced the audio.
Yeah.
She goes, "Hey, watching you guys kind of going back and forth on Twitter. Here's the clip."
Receipts.
And you know, petty ass Sauter was like, "I'm firing it off."
With arms wide open. I think Connect should win Player of the Year. I think he is the best, most important player in the country this year.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that he will win it because I think a lot of people, and we see this.
You don't think like the Purdue Illinois game helped Zach Edey's case, or do you think people watched that game and they're like, eh?
I mean, Zach Edey was good against Illinois for sure. Was it 28-8? Like it was really good. They don't win that game without him. Edey, and listen,
and you know what I came away from that game thinking?
What?
Illinois is better than you give them credit for.
I think Illinois is good. I don't trust their defense as far as I could throw Brad Underwood.
Is it like me and you like swing? Or,
yeah, like you.
Like, or are you just like bear toss?
No, so like I've got his feet, you've got his hands, and we just like swing him, and then we try and toss him.
I don't think we're gonna get 4 feet out of that deal.
That's what I'm saying, and that's about as far as I trust their defense. I just don't.
I think they're better than you think.
Maybe they are, but I've seen them give up a lot of points.
And I think you've been around DeMarinis too long. I think you.
Well, I've certainly been around DeMarinis too long.
You don't give the Big Ten a lot of credit.
I think the Big Ten is good. I think Illinois is probably better than. I think Illinois is better than Marquette.
Are you concerned about Kolek?
Yeah, I'm very concerned. I don't, because a week ago, when he wasn't playing at Creighton, it seemed like they were trying to make it sound like, we're going to make sure he's healthy for the postseason, that kind of thing. Yesterday, I think
you're talking about the broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
The broadcast.
I think I was hearing what I wanted to hear, though.
Maybe, and that's entirely possible. But
I'm only talking for me. I don't know. I'm not trying to say what's going on through that dickhead of yours. I'm like, are they shutting him down to get ready for the Big East tournament, or are they shutting him down?
It sounded like they were shutting him down. And here's the other thing. I started getting a little nervous for them. I mean, I don't care if they lose. But in terms of starting getting a little nervous about what the injury was when he didn't travel to Omaha.
Do you know what happened in Marquette? I'm going to tell you.
Sure.
And I know Jacob's he's working now, but he accuses me of being too hard on Marquette.
Okay.
It's like, I don't think you like Marquette enough. That's not how he talks, but it's my pouty voice. And I'm like, it's not that. It's, Marquette brought their core back intact.
Yep.
No real newbies. It was
they lost Maxis Prosper's the only
the rest one, right? The rest of the college basketball world with transfers in the portal have caught up with them. Like, it takes some time for those guys to gel and mesh.
Sure.
And I actually think that's what I mean, they got a lot of credit for what they did in the early part of the season in the non-con, and that's fine. It matters.
Yeah.
But like
you think
watch
people caught up?
Yeah, I 100%.
I think Creighton caught up.
I 100% think that's what it is.
I know we didn't get.
I mean, for instance, you want to use Creighton?
Ashworth.
It always goes. Dang, get out of my head.
I mean, he's the best example of a guy that, because he was not what I think a lot of Creighton fans were hoping or expecting early in the year. And about 10, 12 games ago, he started being like, oh, that's the guy I thought they were getting.
A lot like Alec for Nebraska, right?
Yep.
Gary gets hurt. We're about to wet the bed. We're super nervous. It's not as bad as an injury as we thought. And Alec is inserted, and Hoiberg was smart enough to not get away from that. He still infuses his energy. Like, those things matter over time because you want to be playing your best ball.
There were games earlier this season where Ashworth got sat down because he wasn't good enough defensively and he wasn't bringing enough to the table offensively to offset it. Now, he's not only started making shots. I know he had the 1 for 7 against Marquette or whatever and didn't shoot well. Before that, he'd been shooting the ball incredibly well. And not just from three, he'd been creating a little bit better. But
he guards a little bit too. So they're letting him play a certain style.
The way that he guarded Cam Spencer for UConn was unbelievable.
And now there's data, right? I mean, Spencer is woefully off against Creighton.
Yes.
And he's trending.
Yes.
It's not coincidence or fluke.
But he did such a good job getting through every single one of those screens where they're trying to get Spencer open and he's slipping through there and he's recovering every single time. I was so I
think it's weird that UConn couldn't make them pay for chasing a screener.
He was getting through them so fast.
Who was on TV the other night? On ESPN. What game would have been on 2 nights ago? It was a major broadcast, and I was listening to a guy. He talked about he's popular, and his name escapes me, but he was talking about Player of the Year stuff, and he's talking about
Dykes.
Might have been
because he's on a lot.
So he said something. I got to look at a picture of him. Was it Dykes? He said something, and I was like,
"Was it on Monday?"
You can't just say that. He talked about the sets that UConn runs, and it was Jimmy Dykes. Hurrdat. We're still not friends, but Hurrdat. He talked about the complexity of the sets that UConn runs and why he likes them so much. And I was like, that's not true.
Yeah. I had this argument with DeMarinis last year. This exact argument.
Really?
This exact argument.
So if I'm saying the same thing you're going to say, then I'm not talking anymore.
I thought that what UConn runs is not that impressive. I think they had good players. I think they have good players. I think they execute what they run pretty well, but I don't think it's terribly unique. I don't think it's terribly innovative. I don't think it's terribly creative, and it stays the same throughout the season. That's why they were better in the tournament last year than they were towards the end of the season because nobody had seen it yet.
Yeah.
That's why Creighton.
I'm kind of inclined to agree.
That's why you were on the
I was. Yeah, I was like
because you're like Max better.
I was like Max going to figure it out.
Like
He's
Max better than
him.
Hurley.
Yeah.
And Hurley isn't going to change anything.
And that's not to disparage what they do. Hurley's a great coach.
Hey, don't hedge. You yell at me for doing the same thing.
I know, but it's not to disparage that.
No, Hurley's a really good coach.
And it's more about, like, I think the words mean something. So to say they're not what people think they are doesn't mean they're bad.
Yeah.
Somehow they've just gotten this.
Kind of like Bo Jackson.
Calm down.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Somehow they've kind of gotten this reputation for these intricacies.
They run such good stuff. And it's like they've got good players and they run fine stuff and they execute the fine stuff well.
Like, I'm just not really.
I'm not enamored by it at all.
But he said it like in passing.
Like fact. Like it was an
and it's during
fact.
Another game, and it's not the team they're talking about. So people kind of just,
you're going to let him get away
just
with
let it go. But I was like,
DeMarinis and I had a knockdown, drag out. Like, he is sending me clips of UConn. And I'm like, that is not that complex of stuff. It's just not.
And it's repetitive.
Yes.
That's the thing.
They run the same stuff.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
Which is easy to guard.
Over time.
Yes.
Now you still have to have.
You still have to execute.
So there's two things I think they do really, really well. And I watched this last night with CJ getting at the top of the key with like a two-way go.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh gosh, you're letting him get parallel with you.
Yeah, you don't want that.
If he's parallel with you, he's going by
That's
you.
ball game.
And they
once he gets your hip,
they
it's
did
over.
it like 3 times in a row, and I was like, oh, might go to work then, CJ. But anyway, so that's not to say that like because you can know what's coming
and still get beat by it
if you don't have the personnel, but that doesn't make what they're doing
special,
spectacular.
The execution of it is often elite, right? The stuff itself, not super complex.
Yeah, and
there's a big difference there.
So I think now with Kolek's injury late, it's going to diminish, and Marquette's on a little bit of a weird spot. It's become a 3. It's Carter, it's Sharman, it's Newton.
Yes, I think Newton's probably going to get it because of how good UConn's been this year. Carter probably is the most valuable, but
they can't do anything
without
Carter.
No, especially with the Hopkins injury. Like, there's nothing left. It's just him. Yeah. So Carter probably deserves it. So I'm not being a homer here. I love Baylor. He's had a great year. He better be first team, but it probably should be Carter.
Oh, he'll be first team.
Yeah, absolutely. Him and Kalkbrenner both should be. Maybe probably not enough room for Trey. Yeah. Unfortunately. That's the show for today. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week. That's DB. I'm Ravi. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio.